Okay. Knez Arian 5 launch coverage. This is Arian 5. What mission is this? VA254. There it goes. $200K with the way gas prices are going right now. Oh, yeggs. Don't do me like that. Not like this. Not like this. Alright. Alright. Let's go over here. I gotta just pop out of KSP real quick. This thing is good to go. We need to build the ramp now. So that's what we'll do on the other side. See you on the other side, Ray. 154. Reducing your cost to just fuel only is always good. I have a massive SSDO that costs 200K in fuel, but it can lift 200 tons. Yeah, there you go. This is the return to flight launch for this vehicle, right? No, Arian 5 just hasn't launched in a little while, but the last Arian 5 mission was successful. Eutelsat Quantum is on this flight. It's an insane communication satellite we looked at a few days ago. Okay, got it. Speaking of Ghostbusters, you're gonna watch Afterlife. Blue, what's Afterlife? Dude, you can't make another Ghostbusters movie, man. Even if it had all the original cast. Harold Ramis is dead. I don't want to watch another Ghostbusters movie without the original cast in it. Like, if that's what you're talking about. Like, it's just not the same, man. It's like watching Blues Brothers 2000. Like, it's just not the same, dude. I'm sorry. Like, and I get it. The world changes. You know, you got to deal with the change, etc., etc. But I'm not hating. I just don't want to watch it. Paul Rudd is in it? I don't know. I like Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd's cool. Afterlife is more of a true sequel, though. Jason Reitman is doing this one, and his dad Ivan is producing. If Reitman's involved, then that kind of changes my mind a little bit. It's the real Ghostbusters 3. Yeah. It's an actual sequel instead of a reboot. Alright. I mean, but dude, there's no Egon. No Egon, man. Like... Just watch the trailer. Alright. Alright, we'll load that up. This is new. Parameter jam, dude. What?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Baptiste, and with Emma, we are really happy to welcome you on our new show, Road to Space. We are live from Paris tonight to cover the launch of two very special and innovative satellites, one from Eutelsat, the other from Embratel. This, of course, possible thanks to Arianspace, Ariane Group, the CNES, and the European Space Agency.
That's right, Baptiste, and we have a very exciting program lined up for you all tonight. In less than 30 minutes,
where's
the
Katie?
European launcher,
What is this?
Arianespace will be taking off from the European Space Center in Kourou. We will be live from Ariane's main base of operations over there and be giving you privileged access inside the Jupiter control room for some exclusive behind-the-scene coverage.
And here in the Paris studio with Emma, we will receive and interview some space leading experts. We'll do our best to reply to all the questions we received via social networks. But before that, let's take a look at tonight's menu.
Tonight in Road to Space, we'll be live from Guyana.
I'm trying to equalize the audio, guys. It's not working very well.
Of course, to witness the launch of the Ariane 5 rocket, which will be sending two telecommunication satellites into orbit.
Star 1 D2. In 3 words: multi-mission, high performance, and connectivity.
Here, in the Paris studio, we'll be talking to Space's top experts about the launch and showing you video reports on what the future holds for satellites.
Quantum is at heart the start of a revolution.
You will learn how a telecommunication satellite works, and we'll be giving you an exclusive look into the latest advances of the new European rocket Ariane 6.
Je vous propose de découvrir de l'intérieur.
We'll also be answering all...
Okay. Let's just make sure we're back up. Fast forward. Prepare to fast forward! Preparing to fast forward. Fast forwarding, sir! Fast forwarding.
Road to Space.
And so we're really happy
You're
to be
sitting
with you
down
tonight.
now.
And let's go directly to Kourou to meet our special first guest, Arianspace CEO Stéphane Israël. You're waiting for us. Hello, Stéphane. Welcome to Road to Space. Just one question. I see you're all on the deck getting ready for this upcoming flight, and it's a very special one. It's the Ariane 5, the European heavy launcher.
Stéphane's cool. We like him.
Yes, it is a very special launch tonight. It is the first launch of the year with Ariane 5, and we have on board two long-lasting partners of Arianspace. We have with Star 1 D2 the operator Embratel. We have launched all the satellites of Embratel, and the other partner is our long-lasting friend Eutelsat. We have started our relationship in 1983. So with Star 1 D2 and with Quantum, we have really long-lasting partners tonight on board on Ariane 5.
Yeah, two special guests, two special passengers for you. And in a way, this launching is the climax of this campaign.
For sure. So we are now a few minutes before the launch. And, you know, for having the liftoff at 6 o'clock p.m. Guyana time tonight, we need the satellite to be ready. We need the launcher to be ready. We need also the weather to be with us. We have now the final minutes up to the launch. We have a lot of very important operations to do before lifting off. So let's see how things are going to turn out, and we are confident for the liftoff.
We wish you good luck. We're sure everything is going to be perfect. Thank you very much, Stéphane. We'll come back to you a little bit later. And for all of you watching live, we will, of course, come back to Kourou regularly to inform you.
But for now, let's welcome Amandine Lux, who's just joined us into the studio. Good evening.
Good evening, Amandine.
Good evening, Emma. Good evening, Baptiste.
Welcome to Road to Space. You are Arianspace's Advanced Studies Director, and tonight you will be connected with Kourou, thanks to a little earpiece, and giving us regular updates throughout the program about the mission. But can you explain to us, firstly, what are the principal stages of the mission?
Yes, so we can have a look. We have a little animation, so we can have an overview of what we are going to witness tonight. So at H0, an important event, we will have the main stage engine ignition. And so after a few healthy checks, it will be followed by the ignition of the boosters. So I'm waiting.
Should be getting some images up on the screen.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the animation.
We should see this animation. Well, normally it should appear on the...
Here it is.
Yeah, so that's it. So you will have
the
off with the boosters ignition, and after a quick ascent phase, the launch vehicle will perform the pitch maneuver in order to get to the right direction. A few seconds later, after, when they are no longer needed, the boosters are separated from the launch vehicle. And after that, we will separate the fairing, which protect the satellites, when it's no longer needed once the launch vehicle reaches out the atmosphere. So the main stage propel phase goes on till we reach the intermediate orbit. At this stage, we cut off the main stage engine. You have a distancing maneuver, and there will be the ignition of the upper stage engine after the separation of the main stage. So this
hello?
second propel phase goes on.
All right, they're just talking about the rocket. Okay. I don't. I mean, they're trying a new format out.
we will separate the dual launch structure because we have a second passenger. And so after the SILDA separation, this dual launch structure, we will separate our second passenger, Eutelsat 1-2.
Yeah,
okay,
Luke,
so those are all the points.
You know what? That's a really good way to say it. It's coming off as a little bit overproduced, but, you know, Euro folks, feel free to chime in. Is this too much for you guys? Like, I don't know. This might be right. Like, this might be just the right amount of production for Europe. I don't know.
We are going to take a look at Star 1 D2, one of those two satellites that will be launched tonight. Star 1 D2 will improve access to high quality entertainment and information services in Central and South America, and it will also connect undeserved population. Let's have a look at the report.
I would describe Star 1 D2 as powerful, hybrid, and 4-band satellites.
Multi-mission, high performance, and connectivity.
Star 1 D2 is the largest satellite
That's a big satellite, man. Look at that thing.
It is the latest in a fleet of 12 satellites. Its role
as a European, I'm proudly embarrassed.
Already placed into orbit for the operator. Claro is a leading telecommunications company, and Ombratel is part of it.
Satellites will continue
I get the
to
same
be
vibe,
an
Tessa,
important part of our infrastructure
Claro.
and business. We are part of the American Mobile Group, a leader in the telecommunications market in Latin America.
Star 1 D2 was built by Maxar at the manufacturing facility in Palo Alto in the United States.
Look at that freaking satellite, dude. That thing is huge.
The satellite will be launched into geostationary orbit 36,000 kilometers above our heads.
Star 1 D2 is an important project.
Chris Johnson.
Because of our partnership with Embratel in the geostationary communications market. We have been working on this satellite here at Maxar since the fall of 2017.
For over the past 36 years, Ombratel and Arianspace have developed a strong and fruitful partnership.
No relation.
Since its creation in 1985, the Brazilian operator has entrusted the launch of all its satellites to Arianspace. And Star 1 D2 does not escape the rule. The CEO of Ombratel explains to our journalists why the company always chooses an Ariane launcher.
We are working with the key international players to have the best combination of technology, cost, and performance.
Star 1 D2 will improve access to high-quality telecommunications and television services. It's intended to meet the needs of individual users, but also for businesses in South and Central America.
Business.
The new satellite coverage will reach millions of people.
The most important technological challenges that we had to overcome to build this satellite were the fact that there were many diverse payload bands to make this satellite operational.
This hybrid satellite is composed of 4 different bands. The X band is for military use only. Star 1 C band has exceptional power. Thanks to this, the satellite will be able to offer television.
Yeah, you come in too real, bro. Bro, too real. Stop that. Don't do that again.
The KU band will accompany the country's transition to 5G, a government requirement. With the KA band...
It really is given, though, we're just like you vibe, isn't it, though? It's like, okay. You sure about that?
Problems. All of this will, of course, greatly benefit the population here. Each satellite beam will be able to connect 4,000 schools to the internet in the most remote areas. The development of the KA band in Brazil will also have an important impact on the agribusiness market.
How do you do, fellow
to reach
kids?
Remote areas is our aim to be the best option in all the market. With a great coverage of satellite, we will help transform businesses by bringing more possibilities for companies to reinvent themselves and to improve their service, in addition to providing people with more ways to communicate.
I'm with you on that one.
Star 1 D2, like the rest of the Star 1 fleet, will be controlled and monitored.
Dude, I'm taking that one. The MTV cut, dude. Yeah, no, it's like watching Cribs. Cut. Ready? Cut. 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 Oh, no, stop it.
Satellite
Stop
had
that.
to go through another somewhat delicate journey.
Stop it.
Its transport from Palo Alto to Kourou.
That's Ames.
In one
That's
of the
a
largest
NASA research
cargo
center.
aircrafts in the world.
That's in San Jose.
Star 1D2 is now ready for its ride into space.
Cool.
Before this satellite takes off and finds its place amongst the stars, let's welcome our space expert, Raphael Chevrier.
Welcome, Raphael.
Hey, Raph.
Hello.
All right. Raph's cool.
Business
We like
developer
Raph.
in charge of innovation at Arianspace. And the question I want to ask you tonight is, today we can talk to whoever we want, anywhere in the world. But what about tomorrow? What does tomorrow hold?
Well, first of all, I'd like to remind that half of the population worldwide still lack...
Oh, why does it gotta stop when he's closing one eye and have the other one open? I hate it when this happens.
...of a reliable internet connection. And so satellites are really the perfect...
This sound guy needs to be punched in the face.
...to the terrestrial network
Is there anybody
to provide
listening to this
connectivity to
production?
remote area where it's just too expensive to put a cable there. I'm thinking of archipelagos,
I can't do it.
deserts and mountains.
His mic's
And just to
peaking
give you a
badly.
recent example, we launched last year a Japanese satellite, BSAT-4B, who is right now providing TV broadcast in high definition for the Olympic Games that are happening right now. And I just wanted to remind that yesterday we had an engineer at Ariane Group, Astrid Guyard, who won the silver medal in fencing, and I want to congratulate her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anga!
What I understand is that it can change.
Now,
things
fencing is
for me
cool.
as an
I actually,
individual, but what will it
unironically,
change
like
for
fencing.
companies?
Fencing is
We
pretty
can
dope.
think of like very unlimited application there. If you have like a strong connectivity, you can apply it to moving targets like trains, boats, autonomous cars, planes, and etc. There are strong implications in telemedicine also, with tomorrow doctors being able to really take care of a person's health remotely in real time, and to assist, for example, a chirurgical act at distance. And also all applications related to Internet of Things, so that tomorrow you can actually monitor your house at distance remotely in real time, anywhere.
Well, thank you for all those information. You stay with us because we are going to focus now on the second
Raph, you
satellite
stay right there.
that will be
Stay right
into
there.
orbit tonight.
Yes, Baptiste, and this satellite is Eutelsat Quantum. It was developed by ESA with the operator Eutelsat and the satellite manufacturer Airbus.
Where's
It is
Katie?
what you call
Katie
a
back.
game-changing piece of technology.
I mean, Emma's cool, but I want Katie back.
To understand how innovative it is, let's watch this short report. It took place a few days ago on Toulouse's Airbus Defence and Space facilities in France. It is here that the manufacturing teams were preparing to ship the satellite, Eutelsat Quantum, before its long voyage to French Guyana. A rigorous operation in a sterilized room under controlled atmosphere.
That's
This
all I gifted sub to
3.5-ton
MTV
jewel of
edits.
technology is the new benchmark in telecommunications satellites.
The Eutelsat Quantum will be the first world commercial telecommunications satellite fully reconfigurable in orbit. Standard geostationary satellites are configured during construction over fixed coverage. With this new generation of satellite, you will be able to modify the coverage and to pinpoint a specific area and to define a route to follow a plane or a shipping vessel.
Eutelsat Quantum is paving the way for a future generation of satellites and is a great example of international cooperation.
As you can see, the final assembly is done here in our facilities in Airbus Defence Space in Toulouse. You can see the satellite behind me. And it's made of many components coming from Europe. The platform is coming from our subsidiaries, SSTL, for which we have developed this product for the low range of our satellites. The fully flexible, innovative payload has been designed and built in Airbus Defence Space in Portsmouth, where this payload has been totally innovated. So the development of Eutelsat Quantum Active Antenna is a new technology that is developed in Spain and that is paving the way, positioning Airbus as a leader for flexible payload.
What makes Eutelsat Quantum so groundbreaking is its new multi-beam antenna. As we can see in this visual animation, its technological feat lies in its mobile aspect.
One of the main challenges and a great achievement for Airbus is a groundbreaking multi-beam active receive antenna named ELSA+.
What did you do? What did you do? I turned the webcast. No, you didn't. You turned off the whole stream. Well, put it back on. Put the stream back on. Prepare to fast forward. Prepare to fast forward. Fast forwarding, sir. Nope, that's not me, dude. The stream's straight up blank. Look. I'll refresh the stream. Straight up. Oh my god. I don't. But it's live. Yeah, Nico, that's right. It's live, but it's live. It is live. It does say live right there. You're not wrong. Q, what the heck? It's your fault? Oh, jeez. Well, at least you admitted it. Hey, we're back! And we have the combination. Schlotkin! What? Go back to the golf course and work on your putts.
Of Eutelsat Quantum, our customer is able to reconfigure by software control in order to adapt to changing market conditions.
Quantum is leading in the field for software-driven payloads on commercial spacecraft, because it is the first to respond to a market demand for ultimate flexibility for customer.
With this new standard and flexibility, Eutelsat Quantum will provide communications on the move as required by aeronautical, maritime and land transportation. Nice. It will also provide a rapid response to civil protection, natural disaster response and security mission.
I love how they say civil protection and show a picture of a drone with missiles on it.
In a few minutes, we'll be linking up to Kourou for the launch of the Ariane 5 rocket. But for the moment, Raphaël Chevrier, our space expert, is with us. Raphaël, let's talk a little bit more about Eutelsat Quantum. And in the report we just watched, we talk about a geostationary position. What it is?
Who are you
Well, this is the position
bro?
Where the satellite is actually going.
It's
at 36,000 kilometers from the Earth. It is a very convenient orbit for telecommunication satellites because the movement of the satellites there are synchronized with the rotation of the Earth. It means that they can actually provide the same applications all day long to the same region because they are facing the same region. So
they're turning with the Earth at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah. So 24 hours a day they can deliver services there.
Okay, and also we've heard about the fact that
they're protecting the ISS from the Nauka attacks. Dude, yeah, Geronimo, this isn't the first time they've done something like that. They were talking about national security in a spy satellite on the last Ariancast that we watched, and they showed a picture of a Russian Air Force base. And they're like, yes, we can clearly see everything that's happening at this base the entire time. I'm like, that's Engel's Air Force Base, man. What the hell are you doing?
It means that it is as flexible as operating several orbits,
several
satellites in orbit at a time.
What are you doing?
And it can quickly adapt to the market change geographically and in terms of frequency bands.
Okay.
So it's a real game changer.
Yeah, it is opening a new way of doing business in space.
Oh,
these aren't the droids you're looking for.
And for all you watching us live, just stay with us because we'll be heading back to Kourou in a couple of minutes. But just before, let's watch what's coming next.
Tonight on Road to Space, we are live from Guyana.
Do I need the combination? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chat, we have to enter the combination. 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5. It's the stupidest combination I've ever heard in my life. It's the kind of thing an idiot would have on his luggage. That's amazing. I got the same combination on my luggage.
On board a rocket.
Hey, all right, it worked.
You want the answer? Stay aboard Road to Space and enjoy the ride.
We're just like
in less than 10 minutes, Ariane 5 will be lifting off from Kourou in French Guiana. But for the moment, let's welcome to the studio Mathieu.
Yeah, Chief, right?
Good evening.
Thank you. Hi.
Mathieu, you've been working for Ariane Group for the last 18 years. You are part of the
Don't
Arianspace
install the NSF
development
like that,
program,
Forge.
But we'll talk about that later. For the moment, we have a question from
We
you,
want to bring
Raphael,
reliable
from our
internet.
from our social networks, which should be coming up just behind me here. This one is from Daniel Fisher, a tweet.
We haven't we haven't seen a picture of the rocket yet. Do Arianspace or the ESA have a defined opinion about the precise altitude where space begins? Ooh.
There was between two entrepreneurs that went to space. Richard Branson, who went to 80 kilometers of altitude, which is recognized as the space limit by NASA, and Jeff Bezos, who went to 100 kilometers of altitude, which is recognized as space limit by the International Aeronautical Federation. The reason for this debate is that the atmosphere is a continuous medium with no real limit.
Tell him, Raf.
You can travel hundreds of kilometers and you will still find particles in space. So as a matter of fact, the atmosphere ends at 950 kilometers from the Earth. We don't really have this debate at Arianespace because we are launching satellites well above 100 kilometers of altitude, several hundreds kilometers of altitude.
There's the flex.
And so we launch the satellites there, and it requires a huge amount of energy, right?
Yes, but okay, maybe you do not care about that, but when you're designing rockets, this is really a huge matter because, as you said, you're going through a continuous medium. You know exactly how you need to model it very precisely when you do simulations. Because even though at 80 or 100 kilometers, you don't have that many particles, still you are going through this medium at a very, very high speed. We're talking about 2 kilometers per second, and you know how many kilometers per hour it is, right?
2?
Yeah, 7 to 8 thousand kilometers. Yeah, you did the conversion, of course. So from there, all the particles you will heat will create some aeroflux, and you need to be very aware of that, in particular, to determine the exact instant when you're going to separate the fairing, because you don't want
That's worse than my quick math.
Protected by it to be hurt by this particle.
So we have an end of question. Would this be of any operational importance for engineering, science, or legal reasons?
So for engineering, obviously, but even for the International Space Station, this is an issue because at 400 kilometers of altitude, they're not that far. There are still particles, and they're actually decaying slowly because they're hit by these particles. So they need to be reboosted from time to time.
Regarding science, this is why in the
attention pour la séquence finale lanceur.
Stand by for the final count of the launch vehicle.
Guys, actually, we just heard the DDO.
Top à 0 moins 7 minutes.
So it's
7 minutes.
7 minutes away from the launching.
7 minutes.
Amandine, can you explain us
7 minutes.
who is this guy and what is this announcement?
Who is he and what does he do?
Okay, so the DDO is the Range Operations Manager. And so tonight, as I have, we will be connected
South
with
America,
the Telemetry Control Center. He will receive all the
information
the
rocket.
So that we can follow what are the main milestones during this flight and that we are on track regarding the launch. So now we enter the synchronized sequence, so that means that we are good to go. We will get the launch vehicle ready for liftoff. We will perform the isolation of the ground vehicle, of the launch vehicle from the ground. If we are ready to go, that means that I don't remember. If you remember, there was the panel behind you with all the greens. So that means that the space base is green. So space base ensures the means to track the launch vehicle, and also
they have a French cast
the safety,
too,
the security. They monitor the safe weather conditions. We have, of course, the launch vehicle. And
the weather is important?
Weather is
even
really
to launch
important.
rockets?
It's really important. It's really important at liftoff.
I ask you that because we can fly with planes on every weather.
Yeah,
so.
lightning are monitored because you don't want any kind of explosion at liftoff. And after that, you know, the trajectory is computed following certain conditions for the forecast. And you don't want to have, for instance, high velocities for the winds.
Yeah, Trojan.
Because of that. Otherwise, you would have some risk towards population. And so the last green that you need.
I know what Baptiste is trying to do. He's trying to get her to explain
now,
more.
This is the final.
But he just laid it on a little thick.
Everything.
The weather matters? What?
Give autonomy to the launch vehicle. It will be isolated from the ground. We will give the power to the launch vehicle. The launch vehicle will be the brain of itself, and it will be ready for the liftoff with the last operation, the preparation of the ignition of the main stage.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you because I have the clock over there. We are 5 minutes away from the liftoff. Let's go to Kourou and let's go to the
No, stop talking. Stop talking about the rocket launch. We got to cover the rocket launch.
Over there. Hello, Cyrielle. Good to see you. You are our correspondent for Arianspace tonight, and you are going to be reporting for us from behind the scene in this famous Jupiter control room. Well, my question is simple. What is that room? I guess it's what we see behind you.
Hello, Baptiste, and welcome. Yes, as you've said, I am in the Jupiter Control Center, and more precisely in what we call the fishbowl. This is the place where we receive all the information regarding the spaceport and the Ariane 5 status. But let me introduce the teams. So, just behind me in the front row and a little bit of the second one over there, we have the CNES launch specialists. They are in charge of coordinating and monitoring telemetry, weather data, telecommunication system of the spaceport, and so many other things. Now, right here on the second row, we have the satellite operators and manufacturers. They are here to monitor their spacecraft, and afterwards, they will confirm the acquisition of the signal, which then means that the satellite is fine. Next to them, in the middle, we have the CNES and Arianspace launch managers. That is where Didier is sitting. He's the one who gets to say the final countdown we are all craving for. Next to him, we have Arianspace mission director, the conductor of the mission in charge of coordinating all the actors of the launch campaign. Now, all the way in the back, you have the authorities overseeing the launch. On the right, we have the one from the CNES, and on the left, the one from on the right, we have the one from ESA, and on the left, the one from the CNES. Now, let me take you to a very special place, Arianspace's den. So, this is where
those guys
have
laughing?
the area dedicated.
Those guys are laughing. Oh, the
Arianspace
disrespect,
project
bro.
managers and the satellite program directors.
Those dudes
they are
over
here
there,
to
they
make
were
sure
laughing.
that everything is going smoothly. Actually, you've already been here earlier today with Stefan, who is now sitting right there. So this area is where our top management is overseeing the entire launch. And on the other side of this glass wall, you can see that tonight we have an audience. They are from the clients' teams and from the spaceport. And we also have a few outside guests. As you can see, they are opening the door to actually let the public outside in order for them to actually be able to watch the show live from the terraces.
Well, thank you very much, Cyrielle, and we'll let those people concentrate because we are 1 minute and 28 seconds away from the launching, so from the liftoff. So now we're gonna watch the show because this is what we are here to enjoy.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. All right, so this chef de mission, that's the mission director right there, and then there's the director of operations. These guys are gonna he's overseeing the entire mission. This is the guy that releases the count. 1 minute.
1 minute away from the launching, we hear the DDO. This is the DDO speaking, announcing.
There's the rocket.
Different steps.
Exciting.
And we will have the countdown within a few seconds. We have 45 minutes, 45 seconds
just stop talking.
from the liftoff.
40 seconds away, wow.
Wow.
I guess everybody over there is concentrated.
Look
and
at Amandine.
Sitting next to me. It is really.
I lived that so many times. You don't know all
25
the
seconds.
things that can happen. So I'm really
Okay,
focused.
so what's going to happen here is because, so Arianspace with the Ariane 5 rocket likes disconnecting the umbilicals before the rocket launches. So we should see the second stage fill and drain umbilicals here on the rocket separate here in a moment.
8, 7, 6, 5,
We have umbilical separation. Stand by. So, Vulcan ignition on the first stage, and at +6, we should have SRB ignition. Go. Okay, she's flying. There we go. VA254, carrying the Star D1 satellite. Star 1D2 satellite and Eutelsat. Yep. Ariane 5 gets off the pad real quick. And they lost it. All right. Décollage is liftoff.
Well, we have just seen Ariane 5 disappear towards space. Do stay with us, everyone, because what's going to happen
Trajectory
next
is nominal.
As crucial as the next launch. This is, of course, the moment when the two satellites, Star
Here,
1D2 and
there's a nice
Eutelsat
track of the rocket going on
separate
behind
from
you,
the
but we're
launcher
going to
and
look at the
placed
person
into
instead.
orbit. But that's not all, is it, Baptiste?
All right. All right. So, down here, you have the altitude, you have distance down range, and you have your velocity here. The velocity is in kilometers a second. Over there in the middle screen, that's the ground track. The ground track is the orbit superimposed on a flat map, so it'll just kind of look like a wavy line almost. You can tell that because that line over there is more circular. It's more straight. It's not sinusoidal on this track right here. So this is a low inclination orbit. So ground tracks, if you increase the amplitude of a track, that means the orbit is more tilted. That means you have a higher inclination. What's inclination? Inclination is the tilt of your orbit relative to the equator. So if you're in an orbit that's 45 degrees inclined, that means you're going to be 45 degrees. You're going to be traveling 45 degrees relative to the equator on Earth, right? So this one is more of a flat line. It's just it's a little bit wavy, but it's not too wavy, signifying that this is going to an equatorial orbit. Geostationary, if you want to be more concise about that. The rocket will put itself into it'll put itself into orbit, and then it'll keep going, and it'll go on a nice transfer orbit here. Now on the left screen here, you have your altitude, and then you have your what does that say? Altitude and distance downrange. So we should be seeing SRB separation here in a moment.
Performance and the best accuracy. Right now, the main active people in Kourou, you don't see them. They are in the ground. We did have an important event. I have the confirmation that we have the EAP separation.
Okay.
Booster separation.
Yeah,
SRB separation was good there from the call out from the mission director. Now the core stage is gonna keep going here, and then you have the separation coefficient, I think is how you say that. That's the fairing. Fairing's gonna pop off. It should happen up here on the mission timeline. Now, another thing to note with Arianspace, this down here is not a representation. That's telemetry. Okay. So what does that mean? So this up here is just a 3D animation, and then that's the lady talking, right? So it's just a 3D animation. This animation shows what ground tracking station they're using. They're using Galliot. I'm not gonna say it right. Sorry, French is not ideal. But this over here is the actual telemetry, and the X represents where the rocket is, and the circle around the X represents its track. If the X goes out of the circle, that means it's off nominal. As long as that X stays in the circle, the mission is going well. And there's the separation of the fairing right there. So Ariane is carrying two satellites here. You have one up at the top, and then you have kind of a cup that they call Silda. It's kind of like an interstage adapter, but there's another satellite inside of that cup. So they'll pop the first satellite off, and then the Silda will separate, and it'll burn up in the atmosphere, and then they'll deploy the second satellite, which is inside of the cup. So telemetry is indicating nominal trajectory right now. Altitude is 135 kilometers, distance 313 downrange, and the velocity is 2.64 kilometers a second. Now, the rocket, in order to get up into the minimum bare amount of orbit, this number needs to go up near 7 kilometers a second. So we're not even close to getting into orbit here. But the core stage and the upper stage of the Ariane 5 rocket is using hydrolox. Hydrolox is very, very efficient, but it's what it lacks in thrust, it makes up for with efficiency. So what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't seem like you lost the boosters already, right? And you're just using the core stage right now with one engine instead of the huge boosters on the side. So it seems like you should be all the way. You should be almost in orbit. What about that? What about the other 5 kilometers that you need to get up? 5 kilometers a second that you need to get into orbit. That core stage is going to burn for an extremely long time, almost all the way into orbit, and then they'll separate and use the upper stage here for satellite insertion. So the core stage is going to make it. The core stage almost makes it all the way into orbit, and that's due to the efficiency of the hydrolox that it's using. Hydrolox is hydrogen and oxygen. It's the most efficient rocket propellant you can use. But once again, it's not very energetic, which means it doesn't make that big of an explosion, so to speak, inside of the rocket engine. But where it lacks in that, it makes up for in efficiency. Like a fossil fuel would probably give you the most energetic explosion, or a solid fuel in this case of a rocket. But it's going to go all the way. It's going to go all the way. You still have about another 4.5 kilometers a second to get where this thing needs to get the satellite into the proper satellites into the proper insertion here. So it's going to be a nice long burn from that core stage. But this is live telemetry right here. That's cool that they kept that even with this road to space thing going on.
Let me ask you a question. When we were preparing this show and we were talking about the VA254.
Yes.
So what is it? A code, secret code?
It's indeed a secret code. I cannot communicate on this, Baptiste. No, it's the numbering of the flight we're considering for V for vol. Years ago with the first flight of Ariane, which was Ariane 1 in 1979.
On the 24th of December.
December, yeah, because we launched on Christmas Eve when necessary. That was the birth of Ariane.
The rocket's still in the nominal trajectory
nice.
here.
So for Christmas time, you watch the launching of the rockets.
No,
it's kind of a good present.
Yeah, but I was not born.
I'm a bit surprised.
No, I was born a month.
They're talking over the mission director. I can't hear him.
So now we are following the next steps, and we are about 7 minutes after the launching, and now you were talking about the basis.
If you notice on the track here, and this is what I mean about a low thrust, high efficiency engine. Look at the track. If you notice, that track is sinking a little bit. This thing went past its suborbital apogee. So the rocket's actually falling down back towards Earth right now. But before it'll fall back all the way down, it will circularize and get up into space. If you look, the altitude track, the altitude really isn't changing, right? But the distance downrange is going up like crazy. And your velocity is also going up like crazy. But if you look at the track right there, it is going down. The thing's actually falling. And don't get me wrong, everything in orbit is falling, right? But when I say falling, I mean relative to the ground. It's going back towards the ground. And that's because of the ultra-efficient hydrogen engine. They know it's going to sink a little bit, but where it sinks a little bit, black screen, it's going to actually, it's just going to go down just a little bit, and then it'll circularize. They actually purposely shoot that thing way up in the air with the SRBs and then let the core stage do its thing. And it actually evens it out. It's not a bad way to do things. You're taking full advantage of the efficiencies of a hydrogen engine. Oh, boy. Yeah. Lippy. Dank meme, dude. It's not going to totally circularize with the core stage, Jonas. You're not going to get all the way there. The core stage will separate just before orbital insertion, and then they'll let the third stage, or second and a half stage, I guess, if you want to call it that, do the circularization and then the insertion. The cool thing about it is that, depending on the mission, the flight ascent profile does change. How they're going to do this with both satellites is they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So the upper stage is actually going to circularize, but after circularization, it's not going to stop. It's going to keep going. It's just going to keep firing. So they're going to not only circularize, but do precise geostationary transfer insertion all at the same time. It's actually pretty cool, and we missed the core stage separation. That's good. Great. Good job, guys.
Ignition in the space conditions. So now we enter the second propel phase with the upper stage.
So you have main engine cutoff on the core stage. If you notice from the graphic that they flashed for like 2 seconds, you just have the upper stage. And now the upper stage, believe it or not, it's still losing altitude here. You're still losing altitude, but you're much closer to circularization here. If you look, the velocity is not really going up, but your distance downrange is still going. I mean, it's still being propelled from that velocity, but the velocity is going up very, very, very slowly because the engine doesn't have a lot of power, but it's super efficient. And that second stage is still going down, but it'll not only circularize, but it will do the insertion all in one shot. And the reason why that little tiny upper stage can move these two huge freaking satellites that far is because of the efficient propellants that they're using.
An electronic
Also, benefit from hydrogen or hydrolox propellant for the newer viewers. A benefit is can't have carbon emissions if you don't have any carbon. 5 head. Using hydrogen, there's no carbon emissions. All that comes out of that rocket engine is water vapor. Don't get me wrong, it comes out as very, very hot gas and then condenses into vapor. But still, close enough.
Could notice that some satellites remain fixed and others move quickly. This is because they are not located in the same orbit.
Trajectory is nominal on the second stage, I think is what he said. I didn't hear all of it.
For geostationary, at about 36,000 kilometers in height,
Cammy, that's
at the equator level, it revolves
they do that.
with the Earth. This is why it seems to be fixed in the sky.
Can we say that the hydrolox engine runs on steam? Well, steam is evaporated water, right? We're not using evaporated water, we're using liquids. So it's liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. So Navron, yes, but actually no. But actually, I mean, yeah, kind of, but no. Is it Astro? Oh my goodness. Dude, this is not doing them any favors, man. Who is it that's making a water rocket engine again? What are they called? Arca? False. Steam is liquid water. Water vapor is gas. You're gas. Got him. No problem.
Raphael, watching this report, we
See?
understood that
second stage is still going down, but the velocity is going up.
In a way,
but if you notice, the velocity is not going up very fast, but it is going up. And right now, if they stop the motor, this thing is going to crash into the ocean somewhere. But once again, that's not going to happen. You're very close to. Oh, they had a signal handover right there. Nope, they didn't have a signal handover. It is a temporary loss of signal. They should have AOS through Ascension here in a moment. See, the telemetry is flashing, and the numbers are going away. That's how you can tell that this is live telemetry, because it blacks out in between ground stations. They're between two ground stations with the rocket right now. They're between Natal and Ascension. Ascension is an island that's British territory out in the middle of the South Atlantic. The RAF has an airbase there. And NASA used to have a ground tracking station there that tracked missions to the moon. But when NASA implemented its tracking data and relay system, TDRS, which is a geostationary tracking system, they got rid of all their ground stations.
But that's completely planned, that's normal.
Okay.
And so
yeah, she's just talking about the signal blackout. It should come back here in a second when they have acquisition through Ascension.
Be transferred down to the next one station.
Acquisition de la télémesure par la station d'Ascension.
So Ascension will recover.
We have an acquisition of signal through the Ascension Island tracking station. That's what he said there.
I'm sorry, we can go back to that question. Is there enough room over there?
Yeah, I was saying that the low Earth orbit is more like...
Fucking hell, man. Jeez.
Rules in order to regulate the traffic. Like we do it on the road and on the seas, in the air. Of course, and the main challenge is to do it in a sustainable way, and in order to really avoid the satellites to collide with each other, that would generate many debris, and of course that's not good in order to continue to do activities in space.
Okay, and just one quick question. I feel I have everything I need with my phone. What satellites and constellation can give me more?
This is because you live in Paris, a big city. And so, satellites are like a very good, even in big cities actually, satellites are good solutions to bring resilience to terrestrial networks. But it's also a matter of sovereignty for states, and this is why the...
Hey, you know what? They're trying, dude. They're trying. They're trying.
In order to bring
dude, the thing is like, that's Raphael. He's the head of innovation for Arianspace. That guy knows what he's talking about. Raph knows what he's talking about. And the woman on the left, I forget her name, she knows what she's talking about. But it's just... Dude, I hate it when the interviewer... And dude, this is a pet peeve of mine. And that's what's... I'm telling you, this is what's making this so damn cringe. When the interviewer is more about sticking to the schedule of the cast than they are actually getting an interview question, it comes off as very disingenuous, like this cast. Like, I see what Baptiste is trying to do. He's trying to keep the pacing going with the launch. But that's not his job. That's the producer's job to keep the cast going. All right? So, he's asking these questions, and he doesn't give a crap what they say. They could say, I have a banana on my head, and he'd be like, okay, good, now we go back to the cast. Like, that's why this is coming off so badly. You have to actually be interested in what the person has to say. That's super freaking important. It's a pet peeve of mine. As somebody that does interviews with a lot of space people, I genuinely give a crap, and I want to learn, and I want to use that as a learning experience. But that's not what's going on here, and that's why this cast is coming off as so cringe.
Protect the workers in case of bad weather while they assemble the launcher.
It's stressful, man. I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to make it not as bad, dude. Dodo's like, huh?
The infrastructure is already well underway, and since April, tests have
been... Alright, screw that. They're working on the Ariane 6 pad here. So the Ariane 6 is the European Space Agency's next generation rocket. It's essentially the same Ariane 5 core and the same Ariane 5 upper stage, the ultra-efficient upper stages that we're talking about, that's Ariane 5 is using right now. But they've upgraded it by using side boosters. Ariane 5 has 2 straight boosters on the side. Ariane 6 can actually use up to 4 solid rocket boosters. It can either have 2 or 4. There's the 4 configuration. But the cool thing is that what Arianspace is trying to do to keep those costs down is use the first stage from their medium-duty lifter, Vega, and use that as a side booster for their heavy-duty lifter, Ariane 6. So those side boosters with those tilted nose cones that you saw during the sound suppression test a second ago, those are actually Vega first stages. They're called P120C boosters. 120 referring to the weight of the booster. It's 120 tons. And there's the upper stage engines right there. They're doing upper stage tests. There's a guy. You know that they're upper stage engines because they have no nozzle attached to them. Are we technically interviewing you all the time? You can safe to say we didn't see the launch. And there's the P120C testing chamber right there. That's the P120C. It's a great freaking solid booster on the sides. They're Vega's first stage. It's Vega C if you want to be technical. See, there they are. See? They're actually talking about it. Here.
Equip the Vega C launcher can be integrated with either 2 or 4 boosters on Ariane 6. They provide thrust during the first 135 seconds of flight and ensure escape from the Earth's
I didn't get that one.
The second engine, the super powerful Vulcain 2.1, is the main stage
really good
engine
motor.
And provides a
that
thrust of
Hydrolox
140 metric tons. Then comes the Turner Vinci, the upper stage engine. It's reignitable and enables improved precision on all types of missions and towards all orbits. The fourth motorized system, the auxiliary power unit, is the rocket's major asset. It enables payloads to be deployed into several orbits. This is crucial for satellite constellations.
Pour le lanceur lui-même, on a défini l'architecture du lanceur. On s'apprête à déposer la définition que l'on va qualifier pour aller en vol. Et à côté de ça, on a commencé à produire les...
Yes, now we're talking. Look at the Vinci motor. That is a very... So Ariane 6, it uses a similar core stage, and I did say it uses an upper stage that's kind of like Ariane 5. But that Vinci motor that they're working on is a very, very, very good upper stage engine. This is pictures of the pad. That's the integration area right there, and then mobile service tower. So it's like a hangar for the rocket when it's in a vertical position. They'll move it away after they integrated the rocket fully.
Le bâtiment d'assemblage lanceur d'Ariane 6.
The agency is the architect of the project and is the main link
What
between
fuel
Europe
does the Vinci motor uses? Vinci uses Oh, there's the Pathfinder right there. Structural Pathfinder for Ariane 6 right there. It's Hydrolox, dude. Hydrogen, man. I'm telling you, it's cheating once you get up into space. It's not, but... So this is a mass simulator of the core stage. What's the mass simulator? The mass simulator is... hang on, let me just go back. The mass simulator is a weight counter... it's a weight analog to the actual booster with all the attachment points on it where they should be. They can use it to test because it's not as expensive to make as the core stage, and you don't want to test with flight hardware. You want to test with the test hardware and have the flight hardware later confirm that finding. This is rocket testing 101. Oh, now they're in a nice lounge. Look at this.
Mathieu says you.
Now we have a reacquisition of the telemetry, guys. Look at the trajectory now. This is Hydrolox, man. This is what Hydrolox does. That second stage was falling, but as the velocity goes up, even though we've gone up from like 7.7 kilometers to 8.7 kilometers, look at the altitude change. And that's the benefits of Hydrolox. Look at the trajectory went up and then it went down, and now it's going up because they're doing the insertion burn right now. So what if you were looking at the Earth, right, from the North Pole, like you're looking at Earth from the top, the orbit is going around the equator and the orbit is getting more elliptical now. The reason why it's getting more elliptical is because, well, they're increasing the speed. So as you increase speed, right, and you change the eccentricity, your orbital the eccentricity of the orbit will go exponentially higher. So it's not gonna take much to get this thing up to geostationary altitude, which is about 23,000 miles that way, about 36 to 37 kilometers, 36 to 37,000 kilometers that way. That's where they're pushing the apogee, which is the highest point in your orbit. They're pushing that out to geostationary. I don't know, Sebi. Needs more RL10. Well, Green, the Vinci engine is good. It ain't no RL10, but it is still a good engine. I have something positive to say. The woman is wearing a dress with stars on it. Oh, okay.
That was collected by Perseverance, and we will bring back to Earth in 2031. So this is very, very exciting perspectives.
Thank you so much, you two. We're now going to go back to Baptiste, who's with the representative from the European Space Agency. It's back to you, Baptiste.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Emma. Good evening, Daniel Neuschwander. Welcome to Road to Space. You've worked all your career in space industry, and you are today the Space Agency's Director of Space Transportation. In the last report...
Is the limit for the launches of the ESA the supply and demand of launches? No, there's plenty of demand, Sea Dragon, but because their launch site is in South America and their manufacturing base for the rocket is in France, and then the payloads are made in California, COVID was a nightmare for the European space program. They used to launch a lot more frequently, and now they're getting back into it, but the European space program uses a global supply chain, so it's been a little tough. Been a little tough for those guys.
And we accept the deliverables, which is a rocket on the one side, provided on the prime ship of Ariane Group, and on the other side,
9 kilometers a second.
Base, acquisition de la télémesure pour la station de Malindi au Kenya. The combined test. We manage them.
They have an acquisition of signal through Malindi in Africa. Second stage engine cutoff here and insertion burn on the ESC, which is the upper stage. It should be happening in the next couple of minutes here.
The director of the Guyana Space Center. Marie-Claire, do you hear me? Yeah, nice to see you.
Yes, good evening.
We saw also in the report those new buildings have been built for the upcoming launcher. How many people were involved in such a huge work and huge construction?
We started the construction for the new launcher Ariane 6 in 2019, so it is 3,000 people.
Just show me that screen. That screen should be on. Should be
but
here.
Not at full time. And we have a peak in 2018 with 600 people, And today we are around 200 people which are working still on the ELR4 in order to start
1 minute
and
until
to prepare
1
the
minute until engine
combined
cut
test
off.
as explained by Daniel before.
Well, thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you very much, Marie-Anne-Claire. We'll come back to Kourou a little bit later. Now we go back to a live sequence because we are approaching a critical or important...
Alex, qu'est-ce que c'est ça? Qu'est-ce? Qui? Qu'est-ce que c'est ça? The hell is this?
Waiting for.
Yes, we are waiting for the shutdown of the upper stage engine. So that means that we would have reached the final injection orbit.
C'est de la merde.
It's a critical and really important moment.
It's an important
merde.
moment, so that means that we have finished
Oof.
the propel phase.
Oof.
What happening?
Okay, so we had the confirmations that, so the upper engine has been cut off, and so now we are in orbit.
Début de la manœuvre d'orientation profil de Star One. Hey, so far, so good. Thank you very
much. Okay, all right. The French are chauvinistic. They don't care what the people get to watch.
Next.
Le futur!
Tonight
Le
in
futur!
Road to Space, we've just witnessed the launch of Ariane 5 and 2 telecommunication satellites. Shortly, we'll be answering all your questions from social networks and taking a look at a science fiction film, Stow Away. We will ask our experts, is it really possible for an intruder to get aboard a rocket?
How long was I out? Please, I gotta get back.
We're not going back.
What do you mean we're not going back? This is a 2-year mission.
Fact or fiction, stay with us for the next part of Road to Space.
Raphael and Mathieu, well, we're back and we have another question for...
What about Kessler syndrome? I saw that question. Scott Manley was an advisor on that movie.
Next step of the mission, the first separation. But I've got another little tweet from Arthur. Who's asking
Qu'est-ce
us
que le
about
syndrome
the
de
Kessler
Kessler?
syndrome. Now, what is the Kessler syndrome?
Well, this is a theoretical scenario according to which the number of space debris in low Earth orbit reach a point where it creates like a chain reaction, leading to so many debris in orbit that we would actually not be able to use space anymore. But thankfully, in Europe, we have a French space law, which is ruling the way that we are performing our launch missions in a way that we are observing the best practice in order to really make launch services in a most sustainable approach.
Yes, indeed. So I just told you about the fact that you can reignite the upper stage of Ariane 6. We'll be able to do that, which means that at the end of the mission, once you've deployed the satellites, you'll be able to reignite the Vinci engine or the APU to perform a deorbitation, which means that you remove the upper stage from its orbit.
Yeah, Swishio, I see what they're doing. It's the same thing that Virgin was trying to do. They're trying to make it interesting for people that know nothing about space, dude. But I'd like to think that I can weigh in on that a little bit. One thing I never tried to do is be like, oh, I'm just like you, all right? Like, I'm just like you. Look, I'm just like you. Look at this. I just show you stuff. And I get excited about it, and that's it. Like, I don't try to ever go and seek out, like, normal viewers. You find this stream on your own volition, you know? Orientation maneuver in progress.
And Amandine, you will tell us?
Yeah, I will tell you.
Yeah, it's a little too much, dude.
All the maneuvers necessary before the separation of the satellite. It's what we call the space ballet. So you want to get to the right attitude, the one desired by the customers.
Okay, stand by for separation of the Star 1D2 satellite.
And I did have the confirmation of Star
1D2.
Separation of the Star 1D2 satellite.
So far, so good. Let's go back right now to Kourou, where normally Cyrielle should be linked with us. Cyrielle, are you waiting? Do you hear us, Cyrielle? Well, we can see all the faces in the Jupiter room. Everybody is really concentrated.
That guy does look like Charles Leclerc, doesn't he? Oh, but he does.
Good to see you. What's the...
Here's a fax machine.
Welcome back, Baptiste. Well, actually, as you can see, still tensed. We just got the confirmation of the separation for Star 1D2, but let's remember that we still have a second passenger on board, and the mission is not...
Did you deploy the satellite? And show it? Nah, it'd be a lot cooler if you did.
And we're waiting for the next update.
Well, thank you very much. We could say that half of the job is...
See this? See even the animation graphic behind you, Baptiste. Please just show that, please. Instead of a fax machine. Like, the telemetry is good. But, yep, nope, yep. Here's a shot of not that. Yeah, okay. Oh, man. I have a lot of thoughts. Put Baptiste in mission control now? No.
From the dual launch configuration. And in fact, what you want to do is to make the most of all the performance.
Hey, it's Vic, what's up, bro? Let the salt flow.
Confirmation of the separation of the SILDA. So,
okay, so SILDA is the carbon fiber payload adapter that's on top of the ESC upper stage. It's basically like if you pictured a carbon fiber paper cup in your mind, only it's the size of a freaking swimming pool. That's all. See, there it is, right there. And it's a cylinder that's made out of carbon fiber, and then it has a conic adapter on the top for a payload attachment fitting. If that made no sense, basically it's just a cup so they can stack two satellites on top of each other. Now, the reason why you wouldn't just stack one satellite directly on top of the other one is some of these things have very sensitive antennas on them, and a lot of them are very, 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 very susceptible to being crushed, basically. Satellites are very delicate. They have a lot of delicate equipment on them. So they don't, sometimes you can just stack the satellite on top of each other, but these two types of satellites are not designed to have anything pushed down. They're only designed to have the rocket push up from the bottom. The way I like to explain that is if you took a skyscraper, if you took like the Shard in London and you flipped it upside down, would it still be able to stand up? No, absolutely not. It would not. That wouldn't end well at all, right? That not a good idea. Satellites work like that. They're only designed to be pushed up from the rocket, and certain satellites are only designed to have the rocket push up from one direction. So you can't stack them on each other. How they get around that with Ariane 5 is they have a protective cup on that's covering one of the satellites, that's covering the Eutelsat Quantum satellite, and then on top of that, they have a payload attachment fitting to the Star 1D2 satellite, which they already deployed. So that allows them to be able to launch two satellites and just stack them on top of each other without actually stacking them on top of each other. Now, SILDA is a piece of space debris. It is a piece of space debris, but the type of orbit, the type of geostationary transfer orbit that they're in right now has the perigee, or the lowest point of the orbit, in dipping into the atmosphere. They purposely do that. The reason why is because they'll deploy the satellite, and then they'll deploy SILDA, which is space debris, and then they'll deploy the other satellite, and the other satellites will use their small little engines to circularize their orbit out of geostationary transfer, or out of geostationary. And then the ESC in SILDA, when they do an orbit and come back down towards Earth, because the orbit is a very oval shape, it's very elliptical, they'll dip into the atmosphere and they'll burn up. So that's good. That's being a good space environmental steward, because that kind of stuff, leaving that thing up there, especially something as big as SILDA, which is like the size of a semi-truck trailer almost, you don't want to leave stuff like that up there. You want it to come back down. Hey, Pete, what's up, dude? Greatest virtual space programmer on Earth. Thanks for the great content. No problem, man. Hey, Pete, I shot you an email the other day. Did you get it? Just wondering, dude. I haven't. I have to go and check. I wish the next time Russia launches something and you cover it, we can have a bunch of Russians in chat speaking in Russian for immersion, as is the case now with our French friends. That happened during the Nauka launch, Kyron. They were out in force, man. Link, Morzen, do you want a link to this? I can give you a link. What? No, I'll check my filters. Oh, okay.
Animals.
Okay, yeah, I can confirm. Crew is wild. Yeah, when you're there, when you're dealing with a huge
reading it now.
What you fear is that some birds, for instance, get inside the buildings.
This is why we had to hire also an animal specialist in animal behavior, who's in charge of when we open the door to place traps.
It depends on the satellite bus that you're using, but these two types of satellites, like that Eutelsat Quantum that has all these antennas on them, rather than stacking using the top real estate on the satellite, it's for real estate, as a place to put another satellite, they put more antennas on it. So like with that Eutelsat Quantum satellite and Star D1, they were like, because they're both communication satellites, they were like, how many communications do you want on them? And they were both like, yes. I mean, if you go back and look at some of the integration footage that they showed right at the beginning of the stream, there's a lot of antennas on these things. These satellites are big, very big. I'm trying to find that footage. That's a clean room right there. That's integration. Thank you for making this watchable. I got you, Staffus. Yeah. Boeing made that bus for the Department of Defense. You can stack 2 satellites on top of each other. That bus is now public, so we might see more like it in the future. Better launch footage. Hang on, Morzen. Morzen, you can just post links now. Just ask before you do it. But yeah, you can post. You don't need perms. It's all good. What do you got for me? Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, good footage there. Yeah, no problem, dude. No problem. All right. So, another interesting thing to note, guys, is as you go higher in an orbit, if your orbit is elliptical, like this geostationary orbit, if it's elliptical, right, you're actually this is true for any type of orbit, but it's very pronounced in an eccentric orbit. So an orbit that's not a perfect circle, an orbit that's like an oval. As you they have deployment on Eutelsat Quantum.
Okay, so we hear people clapping. I see your face. Raphael, and Mathieu also. So I guess this is, in a way, the end of the mission. Let's go back immediately to Kourou to see the atmosphere over there. Yeah, you can see the team cheering up, clapping. And now we should be linked with Stéphane Israël. Stéphane Israël, are you there? I remember Stéphane Israël.
I'll talk about it. I'll talk about that in a second. I want to listen to what Stéphane has to say.
But I can figure out a huge smile. Yeah.
Nice.
So you're happy. Good news. And good customers.
I'm very happy, but I am happy for my customers.
Bold move.
Yes, for sure.
Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
It's very important for our customers.
And we lost
it's
audio.
okay. This is why we are launching satellite, because we have a little delay between Stéphane and me. And you were talking about your happy customers. I guess it's really important for you.
Yes, it's very important for Arianspace because it was the first Ariane 5 of the year, and it had to be a success. And tonight, it's a great success. It's very important for us to pay the tribute to all the contributors of this success. We have our prime Ariane group. We have here with us CNES, which is our daily partner in CSG. We have ESA. It is a success of the whole European team, for sure, Arianspace as well. And for our customers, Brazilian customer Embratel, French customer Eutelsat, very innovative satellite, Maxar, American manufacturer, Airbus Defence and Space, European manufacturer. Tonight, it's a victory for all of them, and I really want to thank them for their trust to Arianspace.
And it's a great start for what you call the Ariane season, because it's just the first launching.
Yes, it is the first of the Ariane season, and you know that now we have 2 very important Ariane 5 which are about to be launched. One will be for SES and the French DGA, and the other one for James Webb Telescope. It will be the climax of the year. And we have also, during this summer, a very busy summer, we will have Vega for Pléiades Neo for Airbus on August 16th, and then a Soyuz from Baikonur on August 19th for OneWeb. So it is also the beginning of a busy summer for all our teams.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck for a huge job you have during the summer, and we'll be watching the next launching. Thank you very much, Stéphane.
Meanwhile, let's take a moment to answer one last time the question sent by our audience, and it sure is a headline topic we've kept for you. Let's take a look with our first tweet from Astro Hayden, who I believe is a guy. Greetings, Arianspace. I'm very excited for the future with advancement of technology capabilities. How far are we away to one day launching humans on an Ariane rocket?
Yeah. That's a question for Ariane. I can confirm it's the boy.
I can't believe they put that on there.
That's right. Yeah, during lockdown, he made very good use of his time because with his parents, he built an Ariane 6 model, which is very, very nice.
So he's probably one. He will be maybe sitting on your chair,
Yeah, and maybe he'll build a rocket that bring human to space. And I'll tell you why, because I think we have all the techno bricks to go to space. What do you need? You need to have a reliable launcher with high performance. That's what you'll get with Ariane 6, because we'll be able to launch more than 4 astronauts to space with the performance we'll get. You need to be able to re-enter from space. This is something that has been demonstrated with the IXV program. It will be done with the Space Rider, something that we master. And then the final brick would be, can you do a capsule? Can you do a spaceship that goes to space? We did that 5 times, launched by Ariane 5 with the automated transfer vehicle. But we are still doing things on that topic with Orion, for instance.
Yeah, we can mention that ESA is implied in the Orion module, which will bring human back to the moon, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I actually really agree with you, Mathieu, that Europe has everything needed to do this. The experience, the technology, and the motivation also.
Oh yeah.
And
you see what Raph is saying?
In a more commercial perspective.
That's why we like Raph.
This market is getting stronger and stronger.
This is why we like Raphael. Raphael is a good dude. He really likes space.
ISS, that is where our European hero Thomas Pesquet is actually
he's probably watching our live now.
I hope he is watching us. Yes. Hello, Thomas. And tomorrow,
hey, shout out to Pesquet.
Astronauts going to the moon. And so, yes, just.
Let me ask you a stupid question. Why should human go back on the moon?
For many, many reasons. First of all, because I was not born when it happened before. Okay? So I need to do this live. And the moon is also very scientific, a lot of scientific interest. Because we went there, but
there's that footage from Twitter. We're showing it in the background,
very
but
few
not
locations
on the
moon, and we brought back samples that are very limited, and the moon can really bring us knowledge on how the Earth was formed. But also the moon has resources.
What's that, Phil?
On the surface.
What's Dr. Z saying?
You can, for example, transform the regoliths, which is the dust that is covering the surface of the moon, into water or oxygen. So it really gives you the conditions to really dream of a sustainable presence of a human on the moon. And you can also dream of transforming it into fuel in order to fuel rockets that would lift off from the moon and go deeper in space, for example, Mars, but even deeper than that.
This is why we like Raphael.
Lots of very exciting perspectives on the moon.
You should just run everything.
We had another question on
Raphael should just run it. Just run everything.
Batman, he's called. Is the Arianespace officially certified to fly humans?
Yeah, I think it refers to the fact that Ariane 5 was also initially thought to be flying Hermes, which was the European
Raph's okay. He should just run this whole thing
program, but it didn't happen. But there's a good point about this is that the high reliability you have with Ariane 5 is actually in the DNA of the rocket because of this ambition. So it has not been certified per se for human spaceflight, but still we somehow inherit from it.
Okay, can we dream big and imagine, for example, a space station like the ISS around the moon?
This is not a dream. It's actually happening.
I miss Katie. I like Katie. She's a good caster, dude.
The International Space Station is going to come to an end. And the states that are investing in the ISS are thinking and building right now a lunar gateway, which is like an international space station around the moon, in order to make this sustainable presence of a human astronauts around the moon a reality. And Europe is actively participating to this, to some module of these space stations. So yes.
Yeah, I liked Harry too. The old announcers were cool.
To dream much bigger.
But you think bigger. Well, we'll have a lot of topics to discuss on the
Raphael.
next show.
Raphael has what we like to call the space bug. Like, don't get me wrong. There are people with varying interests in space, right? But you know good and well, just by how somebody talks, if they are gung-ho about this stuff. Like, they're really, really interested in it. And that's called having the space bug. A lot of you guys here have the space bug, right? It's really... If you're super passionate about it, it's really easy to tell who is also super into it. That's why I like Raph. Raphael should just be the guy hosting the cast. No offense to anybody else, but dude, we just need him hosting the cast. He has the space bug. Trust me, it would come off as a lot more organic that way.
Communications and integrated applications at ESA, and we have also Christophe Dallest, Eutelsat Quantum Program Manager at Airbus Defence and Space. It's hard to say. Can you ask them some questions for us, please?
Yes, of course, Baptiste. So, Pascal, you just saw your satellite separate from Ariane 5. How do you feel?
Sorry, Cupid,
well,
my bad.
I have to say that I feel absolutely incredible. So we have received the telemetry. I can even say that I have breathed the quantum sigh of relief, to be honest. It has been a long journey with this satellite, which has met some challenges. But we're...
I mean, Alex, and that's what I see. I see from a lot of Europeans that watch the stream that there's clearly a lot of you guys that are gung-ho about this stuff. Just as much as we are. Or the Russians or anybody else, right? Like, it's really easy to spot. I know you guys are gung-ho about it. You're just waiting for that chance to, you know? And Ariane 5 is a good rocket. Heck, Ariane 6 is a good rocket. That's really, really great capability. But it's a good rocket in the same way that Vulcan is a good rocket. You know, yeah, I get it. It's not reusable. I understand. But where it lacks in reusability, it makes up for it packing a great punch. Having that Vinci upper stage and the ability to, you know, because the Hydrolox tech change, you know, inclinations and have very, very high characteristic energy, you could make that reusable, right? Like, it's much more focused on what performance up there than it is down here. And performance with first stages is like bringing them up and bringing them back down, right? The Ariane 5 and 6 are great rockets in that regard. They could really, really be useful with gateway resupply. Like, really useful. They are literally designed for that stuff. They're a good rocket. Like, I know... Yeah, that's Harry, Forge. Yeah. I know, I can see it. I can see that you guys... You just need that chance. You just need the excuse. It's very easy to spot. Do you think that the hydrogen SRB combination will be able to compete with upcoming Methalox rockets? Yeah, Pigzig, of course. There's always... Dude, there's always going to be a need for expendable rockets, Pig. There's always going to be a need for it. There's always going to be a need for it. You're never going to not have a need for that. Expendable rockets aren't going anywhere for a while. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't really agree with that, but I understand... well enough to know that reusable rockets and changing the way an industry goes about solving problems is not going to happen overnight. I will say this. Hydrolox rockets with SRBs are great for doing deep space stuff because they have way higher characteristic energy. So, like, I don't know, using SLS to launch a probe to Europa maybe. Geez, who would do that? That's interesting idea, right? That kind of stuff is the kind of stuff that those rockets are super freaking useful for.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Partnership, and as well, thanks to the very constant will of Eutelsat to go throughout the program. So it has been a very important experience.
Yeah.
No, we have received...
Burbs, that's my thing. Baptiste is doing... I see what he's doing. He's more worried about the timing of the program than actually engaging in conversation. So it seems like he's just there to keep the conversation going instead of actually being interested. And the thing about interviewing people and the thing about talking to people and listening to what people have to say is that if you're the host of a cast like this, you have to at least be good at faking it. You have to at least pretend like you're interested there. You know, and don't get me wrong, you guys, if nobody's been on the front side of a camera, right, and you've only been behind the camera like what you get to see here, doing that simultaneously balancing interviewing people in the chat and the pacing of the overall thing is a very difficult thing to do. I've done it before. I've done more formal types of casts, like when I hosted Twitch Space and Science Week in 2017, and I interviewed like Fraser Kane and Ariane Cornell at Blue Origin. I know what that's all about. It's a hard thing to do. It's very, very difficult to, you know, maintain the pacing of a program and also be interested in the interview conversation. It's a tough thing to do when it's live. So, like, that's what I mean. Like, we can rap on Baptiste and the woman there that's doing interviews that has to read off the cue cards, right? But, dude, your nerves really get to you the first time you do something like this. I can say that with pretty reasonable conviction. It does screw with you. You could be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then the camera and the lights turn on and you're like, okay, what did I just get myself into here? So, you know, this is the first time they have attempted this road to space format. It's a little bit on the cringe side, but it trust me, give them a second. Give them a second. They'll get better at it over time. I don't know, Forlorn. Maybe.
Discovery.
Yeah, guys, you know, it's easy to criticize when you're trying to do a cast like this. It's easy to make fun of. And don't get me wrong, it's still funny. Like, even the first time I went in front of the camera like that, I was like, dude, you have somebody whispering in your damn ear. The producer's saying, okay, now you got to ask this. Now ask this. Now ask this. That's really, really distracting. It's really hard to balance all that stuff around. That's why all the time in these space webcasts that we look at, right? Like even with SpaceX, they'll be like, okay, you're looking at a live shot. Oh, we just got word that this just happened. Like, it's very difficult to balance even the count in your head and keep the pacing going, as well as not coming off like, you're a sock puppet. You know, it's very difficult. They're doing okay. Got to work on it a little bit, but give them some time. Give them some time. Like, we get spoiled by SpaceX. We get very spoiled by SpaceX because, one, the people that host those casts, like Jesse and Kate and Shiva and Andy, those guys, they're engineers that work at SpaceX. They're automatically passionate about it, so they're gonna be a little more comfortable because they're talking about the stuff that they work on. Like, they can be a little bit more comfortable with that, and you get a little spoiled by that. Is the notifier off? People have been having problems with the notifier all day, Chief, but I saw your 34-month resub just come through a second ago. Yeah, and thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, and you got to fix the audio mixing, PigZig and stuff. It's a hard thing to do. Like, that's why all these new webcasts that we see from companies and stuff, it gets a little cringe at times. Like, it's like, okay. Like right now. Picture from the first flight that I showed you last week. Let me see, Cyborg. Oh, look at that little thing. That's cool. Wait, Cyborg, it has 2 engines? I didn't notice that before. That's sick. I miss this so much. I think there was nothing wrong with Ariane's old cast. It was a little outdated, but maybe these guys will find their comfort zone. That's something, when you're doing a live cast like that, it's something that you just have to get used to over time. Speaking of perspectives, the DLR began to fund private German companies to develop small-sat launch solutions, and Kinez is beginning to do the same. They're in a wave of new space capital that is beginning to form in Europe, but no companies to properly take advantage of such opportunities yet. Yeah, well, Alex, I wish you the best. Check the stream. Sebi.
Here. The Eagle has landed.
Casper, okay, what's up? Made it home without a hitch. Did the cast end? I don't think it ended.
Well, thanks again, Marshall.
Yeah, no, the stream's still alive. Now, see,
important is thorough and detailed.
That kind of stuff, that's, yeah, you really gotta careful. It was a clip of Harry Tivio. Listening to him again, he's definitely, yeah, I like Harry. Harry and Katie did a good job. I really liked listening to them. Katie didn't know the most about spaceflight, but she was a good host. She's comfortable in front of the camera. That's fine. And so was Harry, to be honest with you. Yeah, Cammy, I saw the footage. They showed that footage on the background from Road to Space. Yeah. But they never showed it on the big screen from what I saw. This is why you have someone whose job it is to watch your own production stream live. Yeah? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They do a good job. Like, Katie didn't know that much about space, but she still called a good webcast. I appreciated her analogies, even though they weren't the best, but they were still better than most. But hey, look, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out, dudes. Trust me. That was a very, very drastic change in their webcasts. Like, if you've watched other Arian casts with me, I try to watch every single one of them. That was a very, very different thing. They introduced a lot of new stuff all at once, so you're going to have some issues here and there. I mean, with that being said, it's still really funny to watch. It's really funny to watch. Like, I can tell you this right now, they did not rehearse anything. They just put Baptiste and Emma and everybody in front of a camera and said, go. Yeah, I can already tell you that. It was an ambitious change in production. They did okay, but that still didn't make it. That still didn't make it any less cringe, dude. Anyway, good mission, good job. Congratulations on VA254, Star 1 D2, and Eutelsat Quantum. Good deployment all around. Step 1 of fixing a problem starts with acknowledging that a problem exists. Chief Branding Communications Officer of Arianspace. Wow. Damn. Damn, dude. Mike's just being a straight savage here. So Gregory is the guy that produced that, right? Incredibly proud of my team. The first Road to Space has been a tremendous moment in success. Many people around the world discovered the excitement of our mission. Tracing routes back to space, Bravo, the best broadcast live we've ever done. Ooh, Francois is not pleased. Wow, man. And then what's Mike saying? Lots of hate in the comments. It's not good. Hey, Juan, 24-month resub, still the best. Thanks, man. Thanks. And then Ernok had a 47 in there. You made it home without a hitch, dude. That's good. Hey, Whitney, what's going on? How are you? What did you think of Road to Space? Little bit on the overproduced side, but a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Good, and you? I would have liked to have seen, you know, a picture of the rocket. I mean, that cast was like 90% people talking and 10% rocket. So what are they mad about? I don't get it. It launched and delivered the payload, right? They didn't like the cast. They didn't like the format, the new format, Reveril. And there's room for improvement. Like, they did a good job for a first try. I will say that. I mean, it's still pretty cringe. Like, but they did it. They did a good job. Hopefully they'll figure it out, dude. But yeah. Arianspace improved their live stream, but yeah, very short coverage of the actual launch. Yeah. I wish that we had Katie back. But Whitney, they had Raphael on there. I like Raphael. The guy that's in charge of the technology, like he's in charge of advanced technology for Arianspace. Raphael's cool. He should just host the cast. Yeah, I like him. Raphael gets it. He's in the cast. He's talking about going to the moon, going back to the moon, and how we should do this, and how, you know, Arian 5 is human rated. Like, we got to get on this. I'm like, hey, yeah, you, all right. Yeah, Matt. Yeah, Matt was okay too. Yep. Now listen to this, please.
Well, no doubt about it. Night has turned to day, and the rumble in the Amazon jungle is that mighty Arian.
I miss Harry, dude. We need Harry back. Harry needs to come back. Harry's great. The French stream was even worse. The French people were translating the English stream. It was so bad. So, a French webcast from a company, from a rocket launch provider in France, was speaking in English, and the French cast was translated backwards. Guys, what happened to you? What happened? What happened? Seriously, just speak French. We'll figure out the translations. Just freaking speak French. We'll figure it out. I do that with the Russian cast all the time. The Russians don't give a frick. They're not going to speak English on their cast. Screw that. Just wait, that's illegal. Because for Arianspace, the matter is clients, so they have to speak in English. Yeah, it's uncool. I'd rather watch the Russian cast. They'll drop bits of information because they're not worried about trying to say something correctly in English. That's why I like watching the Russian cast. Heck, when we were watching Nalco, we watched the Russian cast. We didn't watch NASA TV. I had it on in the background. Yeah, that's right, Kem. They have the crawl at the bottom of the screen. It flips from Russian to English. I saw that. That's cool. You gotta get some onboards on the rocket. You need onboards. Arian 5 and 6 and Vega. We need some onboard footage, dude. Gotta have some onboard footage. You gotta have more pictures of the rocket, more replays of the rocket. But hey, a lot of room. You know, you can improve on stuff. That's fine. Why don't they speak Klingon? It's much better. But hey, if that's the road that they want to take to space. Hey, they'll figure it out. I'm a bit sad that they're getting a lot of hate. Yeah, they don't have NASA or SpaceX's budget. I mean, but they're willing to spend money on a new cast, Whitney, so... Hey, like I said, it's going to take some time for them to get comfortable, you know, especially since they're speaking their not native language. I mean, like, I'm willing to give them a benefit of the doubt. I do miss Katie and Harry, though. I want Katie and Harry back. What? I'd actually prefer it in the original Klingon. Yep. Should I go and get Starbucks? How you feeling today, Prom? You feeling better? Look at it this way. Sure, it was a bit cringe, but it wasn't Virgin Galactic cringe. Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, we'll do the rest of space news here. You guys got anything else that we want to talk about other than the cast? I'll switch us over to the space and rocket review. You're gonna win races? You feeling awesome? All right, good. For Arian, the video feed is not the priority. They're focusing more on the telemetry. Hey, the live telemetry is clutch. That's what makes those streams watchable, dude. If they just, dude, the live telemetry is great. If they just bring it home with the cast and some onboard cameras, their cast will be just as good as everybody else. There's a lot of room for improvement. Hey, and that's. They'll do it. I wonder if we could just... You think we should just go suggest it, or... Any thoughts on the government accountability report? Oh, yeah, we got to talk about that. I haven't read it yet. Don't miss our next launch, booked for August 16th with Vega VV19. Cool. See you last. What's up, Squish? At least we didn't hear welcome to Verizon Wireless. That cast was hilarious, dude. Oh, and here's two more. Oh, boy. Ariane 5 technical cameras with the umbilicals. That's the kind of stuff we need to see, floating disc. Like, this is... Dude, we need this kind of stuff during the cast. Like, here, check this out. This is VA247, so this was a couple of missions ago. But look, this is the kind of stuff you need during the cast, right here. Watch this camera.
10, 9, 8, 7...
And I know that's in slow motion, I get it. This is an edited video, but still.
3, 2, 1, top.
And we had this camera, that's great.
Allumage Vulcain.
There we go.
Allumage des deux abris, décollage Ariane VA247.
Like this. Oh, we need this. Yo, look at the umbilicals. And dunk. That's cool. Core stage umbilical right there. See? This is what we need. We need that. Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I like that. It's a protective plate before you say anything. It's about to get melted by the SRBs. Like, dude, even this. Somebody just jump out there and just live stream it. Just get a live stream camera from right here. No problem. Yeah, I like that. I live in a van down by the river. Got home and this thing was waiting on the porch. Should be handy. Hey. Oh, nice, dude. Nice. See, we need stuff like that, man. In case the original source hasn't been linked. Yeah, I have it, but yes. Okay. If we got stuff like that, oh. Buzz. Alright. The Vulcain 2.1, though. Like I said, man. Good rocket, good architecture, great. Ariane's a good launch vehicle. It's expendable, yeah, and I know. And that's like a mark of demerit. It's a demerit nowadays, like, to a launch vehicle. But Ariane's a good launch vehicle. It is. It really is. Oh, they finally finished that cast, and they ran some credits for after a black screen for, like, 20 minutes. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So, Phil, hey, instead of going and grilling that guy on Twitter, try to give some constructive criticism. Just, hey, is it possible to get us some live cameras or show some live replays, like, while the rocket's coasting or something? Like, or just show the mission control screen? Like, if we could get stuff like that, that cast would be 1,000 times better. Like, there's always room for improvement, dude. Instead of grilling people on Twitter for a change, you should go suggest it. I mean, the guy posted on Twitter. He clearly, maybe you should go take a look. Go freaking find a constructive criticism comment and just upvote that to hell so he sees it. People are very hateful. We get spoiled by SpaceX. That's all. That's it. Hey, that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing, though. It's important, on the other hand, it's important to not have casts like this. It's distracting. And you know that somebody watched this today and they're like, I don't know what's going on. Where's the rocket? I don't know what's happening, and shut the stream off. You know that happened. Because of the cast was kind of all over the place. They're not talking about the rocket. They're talking about they're doing Q&As. Like, you gotta find that balance. I got Ariane Group to like my good luck tweet earlier, so they did read our stuff. Do it. Some Russian news and your answer. Sebi, oh yeah, you had a thing in there. What is up? What's up? Notifier test. Yeah, the notifier does work. Okay. Some of the worst launch coverage I've ever seen. Barely 90 seconds of actual footage. Consider constantly talking over the DDO. You weren't even showing the animation. Less talking, more rockets. I mean, that's a little harsh, but all right. Kem, let me get all those links here. Guys, I'll be honest. A lot of space news today is going to be talking about A lot of space news is going to be talking about, let me move that over there. It's going to be talking about the GAO report. NASA released their government accountability report about the HLS down select, and that is big. That's a big deal. So, let me... Yeah, and look, I know good and well the crap storm that I'm going to receive in chat for reading this, but it is important to understand what's going on. So please bear with me and try to stay civil. I guarantee you there's going to be stuff in this that people aren't going to like, or maybe people are. Who knows? I'm trying to just wade through the links here. Let's go here, like that. We gotta make good time, dude, because I have that deadline, dude. I gotta finish that launch pad today. And we have to at least get some good testing done. And we did get good testing done, but... Alright, I have that. Okay, let's just get the rest of this all figured out. Alright, I think I got it. You did testing? What kind? Not SSTO testing, Alex. Testing with the launch pad. I did load simulations on the launch pad. I got the strong back and I got the launch box working correctly. They can move 280 tons around. No problem. Alright, so... We're going to start up some space news. Guys, I'm just going to flash the title card here for a second so people that are looking through the VOD can figure out where it is. So, title card for a second. Let me just put that up there and here. The VODs are so long, I have to put this up here for a moment. So, here, we'll get the space news intro music. Ready? There you go.
Go at throttle up.
All right, dudes. Let's do this, dudes and dudettes. All right. I'm sorry, I just love this song. This song's a jam, dude. Just gotta wait for the bell. Oh. Oh. Yeah. All right. This is the song played in all man rockets, like elevator music. Yep. Can you link it? It's called IOTA 1. IOTA space 1. So we got some liftoff pictures being posted here of the VA254 mission. Check that out. Beast mode. Song link. Tubular bells. Here, I can link it up. It's up on the tubes there. NASA used this, oh. Zelwaka, dude, you posted the link and then I posted it, and I thought my link got timed, and I'm like, what? Why did Nightbot just time me out? Dude, I got so confused for a second. I'm like, all right. Oh, man. All right, so great footage. Great launch. Good successful mission for Ariane 5. All right. And if you missed the launch, it's a little bit earlier in this VOD, so go that way in the VOD, a little ways. Alright. So, Nightbot wielding powers we mods wish we had. Yeah, Zythera, it's a huge step for James Webb. It's good that Ariane 5 is working correctly because it is scheduled a little later this year to launch a $10 billion B, with a B, Tres Comas. It's scheduled to launch the James Webb Space Telescope. So it's very, very important that that rocket works correctly, and today was a good launch. So, yeah, it looks so hot. Yeah, those SRBs are burning very, very hot. SRBs are very energetic. It's a very energetic explosion. That's why they burn so bright. But it's very energetic, but it's not very efficient, which is why they're used for first stages, because the name of the game with your first stage isn't necessarily efficiency, but getting the heck out of the atmosphere fast. That's what first stage are used for. They're not very efficient. In fact, a higher TWR first stage will actually increase delta V, which is usually, those two are usually not, like you trade one for the other. But if your rocket can get out of the atmosphere quicker because of higher TWR, right, then your rocket ends up being more efficient, because that means your upper stage can be used more for circularization and less for going up, right? And that's what makes Ariane 5 such a good launch vehicles, because they got the balance perfect. The SRBs are just to get the core stage up there. They're just to get it up there, and then the core stage and then the ESC upper stage are used for circularization. That's why we saw it on the track. We saw it lose altitude for a second, and then it went back up. It was perfect. And most of all, Ariane 5 is a rare animal these days. It's nice to see it fly. Yeah. Yeah, COVID really screwed them up, dude. Because their launch site is on one continent, their build site is on another continent, and payloads come from another continent. It's... it's... The supply chain gets a little... But it is good. A payload is 5% of the value... A payload 5% of the value of what New Shepard launched. Savage. Yeah. Hey, Kane. Would it be getting out of Earth's gravity well as the Would it be getting out of Earth's gravity as well as the atmosphere with the first stage you talked about? Kane, how I like to explain it to people, and keep in mind, very, very general. This is a very general way of thinking about it. Rocket's first stage is get you up there. The second stage circularizes. That's kind of the running analogy here. Or not analogy, just a good way to explain it. First stage is designed for getting you up there. The second stage is designed for making you go fast. Because that's what rockets need to do. They need to go up and they need to go fast. First stage is generally get you out of the atmosphere. Way out of the atmosphere. And then the second stage can just do its thing up there. But you need a lot of energy coming from the first stage to get whatever you're trying to move up there. And the more mass, I shouldn't say heavier because we're going up in space. It's mass. There's no weight up there. The heavier the mass of your upper stage in payload, the more powerful your first stage really needs to be. Sorry for the wording. I still haven't got used to touchscreen typing. Yeah, Kane, I got the gist of it. Did I answer it correctly? Sometimes, dude, I get it. People make typos. I understand that. I try to work through the typos. Sometimes I can't do it. But, if somebody type watches instead of watched, I get it, dude. I make typos like that all the time. Same reason the Saturn V uses kerosene for its first stage and hydrogen for the second and third stage. Exactly, Floating, exactly. They need that kerosene because kerosene is very energetic. There's a lot of energy being put out, like an SRB, right? A lot of energy gets put out there. And they needed 7.5 million pounds of thrust, guys, about 33 meganewtons. 34 meganewtons, I think. Actually, napkin math. I think it's closer to 35. 35 meganewtons, 35,000 kilonewtons of thrust to get that Saturn V to just barely take off. Saturn V actually incurred a pretty hard grav loss by the first stage. It doesn't have really good TWR out of the hole. Like 1.1, 1.0 something, 1.09. It's not very high. Saturn V's look like they're going slow motion for a second, and then they really book out. Yep. Nice, iWatch. But yeah, okay, so a little bit more on space news here. He said moron. The Government Accountability Office had a press release today about the statement on NASA's human landing system. So, listen up. This is pretty big news. And now I haven't read it, so I'm going to read it now. NASA had been saying, like, okay, so something weird before we get into this. NASA had been saying that the GAO report on this was supposed to be on the 4th of August, but the GAO posted this today, and it seems like a statement, not the actual report, but it does talk about the gist of it here. So, and what this is a Government Accountability Office report, or GAO for short. What the Government Accountability Office does is basically they're like an investigative committee looking into making sure that people in the government aren't being idiots, to say the least. So a little bit of a background here. This GAO report is in response to NASA's Human Landing System program, or HLS. HLS is a program that NASA put out a little while back, and what the idea is with HLS, long story short, is to build a lunar lander, and do 2 missions with that lunar lander. One an uncrewed demonstration, and then the next a crew demonstration during the Artemis 3 mission. That's what this contract is for. It's for 1 demonstration mission and 1 landing mission, okay? Now, this contract a couple of months ago was awarded to SpaceX. SpaceX did get this contract originally with a bid of $2.9 billion. There were 3 companies in the running for the human landing system. There was SpaceX, the national team, which is Blue Origin, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Draper Laboratories, working on a 3-stage lander there. And then there was Dynetics. Dynetics is they do a lot of small like spacecraft sub-assemblies. A lot of small components. Dynetics is owned by Leidos. Leidos is a defense contractor. Leidos makes if you go to the airport, the machine where you have to put your hands up and the thing, Leidos makes those. Yeah. Cool piece of kit, I guess, if you're into that. Who makes sure they aren't idiots? Yard, do you really want to know the answer to that question? Us. We're supposed to be the Government Accountability Office, if I'm interpreting the Constitution correctly. Dynetics is a Leidos company. Yeah, Graham, unless you're the TSA. You know what I find? You know what I do with the TSA? When I go to the airport, I talk with them. Hey, how's your day going? And you know what? I find that helps a lot more. They're much less likely to get up your tail about things. And I know that's not the thing. I still get patted down from time to time. But if you talk with them and just, hey, how's your day going? Busy, not busy, stuff like that, they chill. They're not like, okay, sit down, do this. It's like they're really chill about things. That's what I like to do. But then again, I do that with everybody. No, Forlorn, that's something different. Yeah, I like talking to them. Okay? Anything crazy happen today? You know, they might be like, what the hell? Why are you talking to me? I get that sometimes, dude. Like when Brimo and I went to Detroit, I started talking with them, and they looked at me like I was nuts. They're like, conversation? What do? And then they stopped in. They're like, oh yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, you know, long shift today though. I'm like, huh. Okay. Yeah, hack and slash. There you go. I was gonna say you do that at late night McDonald's visits. But I like talking to people. I like talking to people. I like figuring what people are about. It's something that I enjoy doing. Helps me get it helps me stay grounded in reality. You know what I mean? Yeah, Swifty, dude, it happens. It happens, and I've noticed this happens a lot after the pandemic. People lost their social skills, myself included. I was walking down the street the other day because Brimo and I went down to the beach last weekend, right? I was walking to the beach, and there's a guy walking his dog, and I said, hey, how you doing? And he's like, I'm adequate. I'm like, what? Well, all right, have a good day. But I'm like, There was an awkward pause between me saying that and the other guy saying that. He's like, adequate. I'm like, what? All right. I was like, okay, have a good day, man. Yeah, I'm adequate. I'm like, what? You're not an engineer by any chance, are you? Yeah. So, all right. What a Chad. I'm like, what? Pretty much, we're like, all right. Hey, Conrad, what's going on? Lizard person confirmed. My day is nominal. I'm like, okay, that was a little surreal for a second. FGV's like, I'm an engineer. I don't talk that way. Yeah. All right. I stumbled across a Terminator by accident. Yeah. Operating within nominal parameters. I'm going to say nominal like that from now on. Can I post a link to the report? Yeah, go ahead, Klein. All right, here. With that being said, there's a little bit of a background minus the whole talking to people Terminator part, but here we go. So, I guess I just don't... all right, hold on, Eric. What's going on there? I guess I just don't understand. After the Bezos open letter, is this spend the money, Jeff, win an award in the next round of competition? NASA says they're going to need a lander for the next 10 years. It's kind of what Sierra Nevada did with Dream Chaser. Yeah, kind of. Dude, nothing with this, when it comes to contract procurement from the government, nothing is by accident, okay? Hey, Tony, welcome back. No. Not Dianetics. No, Rob. Not Dianetics. No. Dianetics. Dianetics is different. No. Shut up, man. That's something different. All right. Maddie, 3-month resub. How are you? All right, so let's read. All right. The following is a statement from Kenneth E. Patton, Managing Associate General Counsel for Procurement Law at the Government Accountability Office, regarding today's decision resolving protests filed by Blue Origin Federation, LLC, and Dynetics Incorporated, a Leidos company. Leidos really wants to let you know they own that company. All right, anyway. Concerning case number Bravo 417839 et al., Friday, July 30th, 2021. On Friday, July 30th, 2021, the U.S. Government Accountability Office denied protest filed by Blue Origin, LLC of South Kent, Washington, and Dynetics, a Leidos company, of Huntsville, Alabama. The protesters challenged their non-selection awards and the award of the optional contract line item numbers to Space Exploration Technology Corporation of Hawthorne, California, under Option A to Appendix H of the Broad Agency Announcement numbers and letters. Broad agency announcements typically provide for the acquisition of basic and applied research for new and creative research or development solutions to scientific and engineering problems. The rules for these procurements are not the same as those for standard competitive federal procurements, as agencies generally enjoy broader discretion in selecting the proposals most suitable to meeting their research and development needs when utilizing a broad agency announcement procedure or procedures. The announcement was issued by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration for a demonstration mission for a human landing system for lunar exploration. NASA made an award to SpaceX for a total evaluated price of $2.94 billion after noting that SpaceX submitted the lowest price proposal with the highest rating, and that the offers submitted by Blue Origin and Dynetics were significantly higher in price. NASA also concluded that the agency lacked the necessary funding to make more than one award. In the challenge filed at the Government Accountability Office, the protesters argued that the agency was required to make multiple awards consistent with the announcement's stated preference for multiple awards. Important to understand there. Alternatively, the protests alleged that the agency was required to open discussions, amend, or cancel the announcement when NASA, after the receipt of proposals, determined that it had less funding than it needed to support multiple HLS awards. Very important to understand that too. I'll explain it later. The protesters also argued that NASA unreasonably evaluated all three of the proposals, so unfair ruling. Finally, the protesters argued that NASA improperly waived a mandatory solicitation requirement for SpaceX, changing the contract after the broad agency announcement. In denying the protest, the Government Accountability Office first concluded that NASA did not violate procurement law or regulation when it decided to make only one award. NASA's announcement provided that the number of awards the agency would make was subject to the amount of funding available to the program. In addition, the announcement reserved the right to make multiple awards a single award or no reward at all. Very important to understand. In reaching its award decision, NASA concluded that it only had sufficient funding for one contract award. The Government Accountability Office further concluded there was no requirement for NASA to engage in discussions, amend, or cancel the announcement as a result of the amount of funding available for the program. As a result, the Government Accountability Office denied protest arguments that NASA acted improperly in making a single award to SpaceX. The Government Accountability Office next concluded that the evaluation of all three proposals was reasonable and consistent with the applicable procurement law, regulation, and the announcement's terms. Finally, the Government Accountability Office agreed with the protesters that in one limited instance, NASA waived a requirement of the announcement for SpaceX. Despite this funding, the decision also concludes that the protesters could not establish any reasonable possibility of competitive prejudice arising from this limited discrepancy in the evaluation. GAO's decision expresses no view as to the merits of these proposals. Judgments about which offer will most successfully meet the government's needs are reserved for procuring agencies, subject only to the statutory and regulatory requirements. GAO's bid protest process is handled by the Government Accountability Office of General Counsel and examines whether procuring agencies have complied with the procurement laws and regulations. Today's decision was issued under a protective order because the decision may contain proprietary and source selection sensitive information. The Government Accountability Office has directed counsel for the parties to promptly identify information that cannot publicly be released so that the GAO can expeditiously, vocab word of the day, prepare and release a public version of that decision. When the public version of the decision is available, it will be posted to our website. Public decision is that report, I think, that's supposed to come out on the 4th of August, which is next week. For more information, please contact Derpidit. Okay. All right, so Dynetics' statement right now. What is Dynetics saying? Dynetics, the other HLS bidder that had its GAO protest denied, said it is disappointed in the GAO's decision, but will continue to pursue other opportunities, such as Next Step, Appendix N, and Lunar Exploration Transport Services. Okay, so, lot to unpack here. Long story short, the protest that Blue Origin and actually give me a second to structure this out in my head. It's important to explain this in a certain way, so people can understand it better. Give me a moment. Nice, Forge. There you go. I went and got coffee. What was the decision? So they stood by SpaceX, and the NASA statement for later. Okay. I'm just thinking about how to structure this to explain it correctly. There's a lot of legal jargon here. There's a lot of, that's general counsel, which means legal. Ken Patton's a lawyer that works for the Government Accountability Office, the guy that issued this statement. So the long story short is that NASA awarded this contract to SpaceX, citing good technical performance and lowest bid. Okay, they disapproved the national team. I shouldn't just say Blue Origin. It's not Bezos bucks, all right? And that's important to understand here. They said that the specific points that the national team and Dynetics were protesting were, most of them were no wrongdoing. There was one line item in the the broad agency announcement for the next step, under next step 2 for the human landing system Appendix N, that was a legitimate thing, to a legitimate protest, but it wasn't enough to overturn the decision. Okay? So, what does that mean? NASA awarded SpaceX a $2.9 billion contract, and Blue Origin, National Team, and Dynetics protested it. This is the Government Accountability Office, which is basically saying that NASA did nothing wrong. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. So, to understand what those reasons are, when they were talking about the different line items that they protested specifically, you have to understand what the HLS procurement is, what the broad agency announcement for the human landing system Appendix N under NASA's Next Step 2 program means. That's basically a broad agency announcement. And Appendix N is an important thing to understand. A broad agency announcement is NASA basically going, hey, we are looking for people to build lunar landers for us for the Artemis missions, and here's the set of criteria that the lander needs to conform to, and here's what it needs to do. If anybody wants to, apply for a contract or apply for this, this is the criteria that you need. Now, the HLS broad agency announcement, it came out last year, basically. Jim Bridenstine, the former NASA administrator, is the guy that's largely credited with getting a human landing system on the books. Last year, he got HLS, he got it as a broad agency announcement, and he got NASA to, because he was the administrator, he got NASA to put a lunar lander on the books to get funding for it. The original HLS procurement broad agency announcement came out, I believe, last year. I'd have to go look. But there's some things that we got to understand here. So we're back in 2020 now. Jim's still the NASA administrator, okay? So this is about a year ago. NASA released this broad agency announcement because they got a human lunar lander on the books for the Artemis programs. They got 3 bids from SpaceX, National Team, and Dynetics, a lighthouse company. Over time, the broad agency announcement had some modifications to it, okay? It had some modifications to it. But I'll get into what those modifications are in a second. First and foremost, the original contract states that they are going to select 2 landers for development and split the costs evenly in a similar move like Commercial Crew. You have commercial companies, with redundant dissimilar architecture that will have, that'll provide us with a more sustainable lunar program. Long story short, if we have 2 ways to get to the moon, 2 ways to get to the moon is better than 1 way to get to the moon, and it ensures that if, one lander has a problem, you can use another lander and keep your moon base going, for instance. Not a bad way to do things. So, fast forward to fiscal year 2020 funding. Fiscal year 2021, which started in Q4 of last year, September. Not really Q4, Q3 into Q4. Jim got this lunar lander on the books and requested cash from the people in Congress. He requested, I think it was $2 billion so he could fund 2 landers. All right. And they got like $300 million. The lunar lander program under fiscal year 2021 appropriations was notoriously underfunded. They asked for somewhere in the billions, and they got like $200 to $300 million, which is a good start, but it's not good. That wasn't enough. Or 3.7 billion. There you go. Excuse me. I know it was in the billions. They got a couple million. They got a couple $100 million. And I know, once again, you got to understand this in the construct of government spending. $100 million is not a lot of money. And I know for them, yeah, I know. If you have a problem with that, I get it. Believe me. But it's you got to stay in context here. That's not a lot of money to get a lunar lander built, much less flown. So NASA, here's the big one. This is the important thing to understand. They added Appendix N. They amended the broad agency announcement. The broad agency announcement changes were, long story short, that, or not Appendix N, it's Appendix H to Option A under the BAA. So they added an addendum to their broad agency announcement. They changed it. And that change basically said that based off of funding, they would ideally, the plain English way of saying it is we would want to choose 2 landers, but if we don't get enough money, we might only have to choose, we can still choose just one if that's what happens. Or if we don't get the money that we're seeing, we will not award a contract at all. They added that after they released the broad agency announcement in the middle of 2020. They changed it after they figured out they weren't going to get enough funding. That's an important thing to understand. They changed it. That's where the protests are mostly coming from. All right? They changed a couple of things. They said you can select one. So when they figured out that NASA wasn't, when Jim and the rest of the people that were running NASA at the time figured out that they weren't going to get enough money to award 2, they exercised Appendix H, Option A, under the broad agency announcement for HLS under NASA's Next Step 2 program. They exercised that option and chose just SpaceX. The other thing that they added, and this is another important thing to understand, the other thing that they added to that broad agency announcement says that funding for these landers can be privately funded. Basically, they said, yeah, you could use your own money to develop this, and if you include that in your bid, we'll take that into account. Basically, if you think your lander is going to cost $5 billion, but you can raise $2.5 billion of your own capital, you can throw a bid in at $2.5 billion, and we'll consider it. If you can show us that you will fund this. If you could show us the money trail, basically. So they added that, and SpaceX did that. SpaceX went in at a bid for this contract at $2.94 billion. And SpaceX, in NASA's source selection statement for the HLS down select, basically NASA saying this is who we're picking and why. Basically, SpaceX, the quick way of saying it is that SpaceX is doing the exact analogy that I said. They're Elon straight up paying for half of the lunar lander. And NASA's footing the bill for the other half. Because Starship's already being developed. Basically, that's his footing for the bill. He's just putting money into Starship, and NASA will put in the money for a lunar variant, a lunar lander variant for Starship. That was the gist of it. So here's where this gets a little, like, on top of that, Blue Origin, and they released this source selection statement in May of this year. And that source selection statement basically said exactly what I told you thus far. Okay? Now, little bit of an interesting thing. I'm not sure if this should be included in my explanation or not. I don't know for sure. I mean, I figure it's pertinent anyway. It's important to understand that the source selection statement for the human landing system down select got leaked. It leaked to the press. Reporters started posting the source selection statement on Twitter, and reporters started writing articles about it on Twitter, and they knew that NASA was going to do an announcement that day, and NASA basically freaked out and said, oh crap, we got to do something. We have to address this right now, and held a phone conference, a poorly produced phone conference detailing their source selection statement. And that whole stream was a cluster. That whole stream was a cluster. No press, no questions, no nothing. Here's the statement. Here's what we're doing. Bye. So, and this is why I don't know if this is necessarily pertinent or not, but somebody did leak the source selection statement and forced NASA's hand to say what they were doing. Now, I don't know. There's not enough conclusive evidence to say there was, intent there or something, or did somebody release it on purpose because they weren't happy about the result? I have no freaking clue, dude. No SpaceX representative there. Yep, it was a cluster. So They released it, and then immediately, like clockwork, like right after the statement, Blue Origin and Dynetics immediately protested the outcome. And what Blue Origin was basically saying is, you didn't say that you changed the rules. You didn't tell us. You didn't tell us that you put that damn amendment in there. Had we known, we would have changed our bid. Because the national team's bid was total cost involved. So no personal funding. So Blue Origin bid what they think the entire program was going to cost. SpaceX bid basically what they thought half of the program was going to cost, and then footed the bill for the other half. That's where the national team was pissed. That's where their protest is from. Dynetics basically said the same thing. They were like, "Are you kidding me? You changed the rules. You amended the broad agency announcement, and our bid that made our. If we'd known you changed it, we would have changed our frigging bids, right?" But I mean, this is where I don't know. Is it NASA's job to say that they changed it and tell everybody? That sounds like it should be. That sounds like it should. It sounds like that should be what's going on. Like NASA should say when they amend broad agency announcements. It sounds like NASA did it quick. But once again, that's speculation on my part. So that's why Blue Origin and Dynetics were like, "Are you serious? Whoa, wait a minute. Why would you do this? Had we known we could fund it with our own money, we would have changed our bidding style." Which, dude, that part I kind of agree with. NASA and Jim should have told everybody. But on the other hand, even if they had changed their bids to a more appropriate number, I think NASA wanted that Starship capability. But and the GAO does say that at the end of the day, the criteria for judging what the contract down select is it's not their job to rule. And they say that in one of the last paragraphs there. Judgments about which offer will most successfully meet NASA's needs are reserved for procuring agencies. So if NASA wanted SpaceX's lander, and they chose it, then Blue Origin, not Blue Origin, the national team really did, like, all right. So that's the first one that I personally thought, yeah, you should have told them, but it seems like the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, says that it's not NASA's job to say that they changed the broad agency announcements. They said there was no wrongdoing there in this report. Yes, any changes must be known to all parties. I work in a government agency and deal with procurements as an engineer. Blue Origin's was $6 billion and Dynetics was close to $10 billion, yeah. So, I covered the funding thing. I covered the reason why NASA only chose one. They basically got underfunded. Underfunding programs, guys, just on a side note, underfunding NASA programs is a big no-no. That is setting up a program to fail. Constellation was well funded until 2008 rolled around, and then they underfunded it 2 times in a row and then canceled it, citing poor performance due to underfunding. The Space Shuttle, notoriously underfunded during development. We all know how that ended. The broad agency announcement is a public document. It is the responsibility of the bidder to stay current. Yeah, Prominent, yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, NASA could do them a solid by saying that they changed it, because then the contractors could foot the bill more out of their own pocket. But I digress. I guess that's the way they do it. And if the Government Accountability Office General Counsel on contract procurement is saying what you said, then I'm not, dude, lawyer stuff is not my forte. So I'm just going to go ahead and defer judgment to the guy that made this report and what you said. That's right. Yeah, SpaceX basically saw that they got underfunded and changed their bid after NASA changed their rules. And yeah, they protested, which makes sense. Now, I covered multiple awards, single awards. I covered changing the contract around. Okay, the GAO concluded there was no further requirement for NASA to engage in discussions, amend, or cancel the announcement as a result of the amount of funding for the program. Yeah, predominant. You're right. They didn't need to tell them. They didn't need to say nothing. It's up to them to keep up with it, which makes sense. I guess. I mean, yeah, that's fine as long as you're consistent on that ruling, and that seems to be consistent here. That's fine. Now, there's one other thing here. The GAO next concluded that the evaluation of all three proposals was reasonable and consistent with the applicable procurement law. Basically, all three contractors didn't violate any of the broad agency announcement criteria. All three were good proposals. They were consistent with applicable procurement law, regulation, and the announcement's terms. So there was no point. There was speculation around that the national team and Dynetics violated multiple constraints for the broad agency announcement criteria. The GAO just said that's not a thing right there. So whatever we heard about Dynetics having a negative mass fraction was cherry picked somewhere. That was That was either old or outdated information, because they all conformed to the procurement law, regulation, and announcement terms. All right, I'll check that out in a second. Sorry, accidental tap. Ow. Jeez, Bandit. I mean, hey, at least that means he looked at your profile. I'd still feel pretty happy about that. But anyway, guys, I'm purposely kind of not looking at chat so I can convey it in one straight message that I could cut and post other places somewhere. So, hi, VOD viewers. Okay, so here's the last part. This part is very interesting. The Government Accountability Office agreed with the protesters that in one limited instance, NASA waived a requirement of the announcement for SpaceX. Despite this finding, the decision also concludes that the protesters could not establish any reasonable possibility of competitive prejudice arising from this limited discrepancy in the evaluation. So, long story short, there's something about Starship that doesn't conform to NASA's broad agency announcement for a lander. There's something about it, be it refueling or whatever. I'd have to go back and read the source selection statement. But NASA said, this is not what we want, but it's okay. Your proposal is still better than everybody else, so we'll just be like, okay, that's fine. So that was a legit protest, but it wasn't enough of a big deal to prove that there was a conflict of interest here and illegal or unprejudiced procurement for SpaceX. So, long story short, SpaceX did nothing wrong, and neither did NASA, except for a couple of small things, a couple of small discrepancies in their evaluation. There was no conflict of interest, and NASA was working completely within the confines of the law, changing the broad agency announcement, and then awarding SpaceX a contract based off of their amendments in the broad agency announcement. So, SpaceX funding should start going to SpaceX and Starship for a human landing system. It's probably the payment timing that they changed after the fact. Maybe. This is freaking wild. Okay. Did NASA tell SpaceX that they changed the rules, or did SpaceX just listen and read the rules better? Sebi, it sounded like SpaceX is just on their game when it comes to contract procurement. It sounds like they have a good army of lawyers looking over broad agency announcements with a fine-tooth comb. That's what it really sounds like. That would also explain why SpaceX gets a lot of contracts all the time, because they're paying attention. Now, once again, I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but that's what it sounds like. But it could be that just SpaceX saw that they changed it and said, "Oh crap, dude, we can change the bid, change the bid." You know, it's possible that happened too. Why Blue Origin or Dynetics would not do this, I don't know. This is not space stuff, Hellfish. So I'll go over it in a second. A salesman trying to land a bid follows up with their clients multiple times a week to land the deal. Still, more like commercial crew and cargo to ISS than Grumman award for the lunar module during Apollo. Keep working and get a lander contract on a future mission. So yeah, it seems like Dynetics was like, yeah, okay, fine, all right, whatever. We'll go. We'll do other things. Okay, a lot of paragraphs in chat. Hang on. So yeah, that's where we are up until this point. There are some other things that I should mention before we start having a discussion about it. The other thing to mention is that NASA made a new program, made another broad agency announcement under the Next Step 2 program. They made another BAA, and the other broad agency announcement was a program called Lunar Exploration Transport Services, or LETS, or LETS for short. LETS is the contract follow-up to the Human Landing System. The Lunar Exploration Transport Services is basically paying, it's kind of like a block buy for the landers. SpaceX is just under HLS. The HLS program is just a demonstration mission and then a crew mission. The Lunar Exploration Transport Services mission is the routine missions that come after Artemis 3. So Artemis 4, Artemis 5, Artemis 6, Artemis 7, Artemis 8, Artemis blah, 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 blah. How many times do we ever want to go back to the moon this time around? Hopefully we go to stay. So the Lunar Exploration Transport Services was something that they added after SpaceX was awarded the HLS contract. Bill, the current NASA administrator, added this in there. And basically, because HLS didn't get the funding that they needed, NASA started another program with another broad agency announcement. And the idea was that NASA was going to ask for $10 billion for the Lunar Exploration Transport Services program over the next 5 years. $10 billion over the next 5 years. That got horribly misconstrued by some idiot along the line and got reported as a $10 billion bailout for Jeff Bezos, which is bull crap of the highest caliber. Yeah, that's literally, no, that's not what that is at all. It's a $10 billion contract for the national team to build and fly multiple times a block buy of lunar landers. Very, very, very different. And now Blue Origin does kind of lead the national team in terms of contract procurement. It's not a bailout for Blue Origin. It's not a bailout for Jeff Bezos. It is NASA attempting to get a second lunar lander on the books so we can have redundant dissimilar architecture when we go down to the surface of the moon and have a more sustainable lunar program that ends up costing us less money in the long run. Or was SpaceX always planning that and included both a full price? No, they changed their bid, Yarg. SpaceX changed their bid based off of that amendment. I should have mentioned that, sorry. I don't think Blue Origin and Dynetics can react to change fast enough. Well, Sebi, something tells me that Blue Origin is going to be going a lot faster than the turtle, than their company slogan implies, because Jeff is all hands-on with that. I mean, he stepped down from Amazon. He doesn't run Amazon anymore. Some other guy does. I forget his name. So, and Jeff, after the NS-16 mission, said he's going ham on Blue Origin. So, I think that we're going to see Blue Origin be a lot more than just, hey, we want this contract. Oh, we got rejected. That's fine. You're going to see a lot more of that. You're going to see them bringing their price down. Because I think it would be prudent to say that Blue Origin can fund a lot of these contracts on their own dime, which does explain Jeff Bezos' letter to Bill Nelson about the Lunar Exploration Transport Systems contract, saying that if you give the national team this contract, I will foot $2 billion of my own money to fund a second lander if you give us this contract. That explains that. That explains also why, you know, I don't think that Blue Origin is really going to give a crap that the HLS protest didn't go through. I think Blue is targeting Lunar Exploration Transport Services. And then SpaceX the HLS program can just be extended so we can basically get 2 lunar landers on the books with 2 different contracts that are spread around. So we can field 2 lunar landers and nobody gets sticker shock from it. I think that's what NASA was trying to do. Andy Jassy is the guy's name. Thank you. Bob Smith is the CEO of Blue Origin. Yep. The Space News article with Bill that I linked has some good info about the second lander. See last, Dynetics response. Yeah, we covered it. Don't know if anyone posted it yet. Yeah, we saw it. Dynetics, a Leidos company, is appreciative of the GAO's review of NASA's Human Landing System Option A decision and well disappointed. We respect the GAO's determination announced today. Our focus for the HLS program from the beginning has been the development of a sustainable capability that enables a long-term lunar presence and helps fuel a future cislunar economy. To that end, we have continued to evolve our HLS design with a focus on sustainability. We are excited about the opportunities presented by NASA's HLS Next Step Appendix N competition, Lunar Exploration Transport Services, that provides funding for continued design and risk reduction activities for a sustainable lander. We also plan to compete for NASA's announced Lunar Exploration Transport Services opportunity. There it is. And we believe that healthy competition is necessary to maintain the industrial base, operative word, to achieve important strategic goals of space exploration and national security. Yeah, okay. We will continue to pursue these opportunities with a team that helps strengthen the broader industrial base that includes international partnerships. Again, we appreciate the GAO's review of the decision. We look forward to working with NASA on future opportunities. It seems like neither of them give a crap that this protest got denied because NASA came up with Lunar Exploration Transport Services. Now, Yeah, Lavi. I didn't get the tweet that was posted before was from Jeff, and it was paraphrased from that. But yeah, good stuff. So, I had a theory, guys, when these protests came through. When these protests first were announced, they were literally announced the day NASA released the procurement. Give me one moment. They filed these protests, and then when I heard that Lunar Exploration Transport Services was on the books and it had an amendment basically, citing that NASA needed 2 lunar landers, I had a theory that Blue Origin and Dynetics would not give a crap about this protest anymore. And it seems like they don't. And Jeff writing to Bill about using $2 billion for his own lander really shows that they don't care. They did this before NASA said, hey, we still want 2 landers, so we're going to make another program to field 2 landers. Now, NASA did that. NASA did the Lunar Exploration Transport Services program. And now, okay, this is a little bit my judgment, so if you don't If you're like, well, EJ, I don't know if that sounds kind of flimsy. You tell me. You tell me if this is thin or not. I had a feeling that NASA made the amendments to the original Human Landing System contract knowing full well what would happen. So, NASA asked for $3.7 billion. They got like $300 million. Jim and his team looked at that and said, oh, crap. That's not good. We're never going to get a lander done by 2024 because that's NASA's goal. Still, even now, NASA's goal is to get people back to the moon by 2024. So, I think NASA came up with a plan. Okay? NASA came up with a plan knowing full well what would happen here. And what that plan was basically make the changes so they could award SpaceX a contract. Okay? And they did. And right when they did, like clockwork, Blue Origin and the national team and Leidos protested it and then went to their local congressional representatives and said, we need 2 landers. You need 2 landers because that contract money is coming to your district. Basically, NASA, I'm pretty sure Jim predicted that they would lobby the trash out of people to get another lunar lander on the books, and literally that's what happened. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I wasn't surprised when Lunar Exploration Transport Services was announced by NASA and went on the books. That's why I said at the time, oh, yeah, I have a feeling this HLS protest will go away very quickly. Because that underfunding, NASA knew that underfunding for HLS, they, instead of being dejected about it, they could use that as basically bait to get 2, maybe even 3 landers on the books for lunar missions. 3 landers would be ideal. They can't just go and say we need 3 landers outright. Everyone would be like, no, we don't have the money to do that. So I think NASA played Congress a little bit there and played the contractors a little bit because they knew good and well that they would lobby against it if they awarded SpaceX a contract and nobody else. I think that was on purpose. I think they did that for a reason, which it does explain. That would explain why the source selection statement on HLS was leaked. That would also explain that. So that's my personal kind of view. Once again, you guys tell me if that's slim or if that's flimsy, if it's thin. I don't know. Like, I've been following this for some time. And I think that Jim and Bill, because the funny thing is that, you know, Bill Nelson's the administrator now. Jim Bridenstine was the administrator from the previous administration. And, you know, you get a natural sense that they don't agree with each other on things because Jim's a Republican and Bill's a Democrat, right? The funny thing is that Bill Nelson was on Jim's Space Advisory Council for NASA. So that's not what's going on. Yeah, no, they had this plan from the start. Yeah, they hatched this one and played the system to get NASA 2 landers absolutely on the books, and maybe even 3, because they knew they couldn't do it outright. Yeah, smart move. Very smart move. That's some like 60 chess stuff going on right there. If what I think is correct. Oh yeah, Bill. Yeah, right there. When it comes to space, for everybody, nobody cares about that stuff. When it comes to space, heck, nobody cares about nationality, with the exception of China. I mean, we work with the Russians on everything, and everybody still likes to pit us as us versus them with the Russians, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. When it comes to working on international projects, it's stupid. We're on the same team in that regard. Yep, they're not stupid, and they both know how to play the Rule 8 game in industry. Yeah, Hazanku, I do not think this is an accident. I think NASA used this as leverage to get 3 lunar landers, possibly 2, possibly 3 on the books. I don't think this is an accident. It's too convenient. But then again, that's wild speculation from me, so I wouldn't ever, like... That's why I separated this from, you know, my explanation previously. Just to clarify, SpaceX could still win contracts under LETS, right? Sure. King of Bees, hey, enjoyed the launch in Space News. Had to step away for a bit. When does KSP return? Very soon, very soon. Jeff still cares that SpaceX has a head start. I don't think he gives a crap at this point. I think he just wants a contract because then he can flood it with his own cash and make a lander faster than anybody else. I'm just guessing. Dude, you say a lot of things about Jeff, but you know good and well that Jeff gives a crap about space regardless. He gives a crap, and he showed time and time again that he's willing to invest a lot of money into getting us out into space. He really, you know, regardless of how you think he feels about down here, he cares deeply about up there. It's very easy to spot. Maybe the other goal was for them to notice the amendment, get suspicious, and lower the price, which is what SpaceX did, but not the others. Dude, I'm telling you, that's the Rule 8 game, Phil. That's why the person that runs NASA needs to be a politician. You do not want a scientist running NASA. That's a stupid idea. You know why? Because scientists and engineers, long story short, are designed to make sense of things. Politics is a social thing. It's a social construct. Stuff doesn't make sense all the time. So that's why a scientist or an engineer running NASA is not a good idea. You need somebody with Rule 8 experience. You need a politician to run NASA. That's very, very, very important. Scientists and engineers live in the real world. What I like to tell people, Vivi, is that scientists and engineers designed to make sense of things. Scientists try to make sense of our world. Engineers take that sense and apply it to get a result in our world, right? You can't make sense of politics. That's why it's a bad idea, because it makes no sense. Am I right? It makes no sense, man. None of this makes any sense. Oh, man. It makes no sense. Yeah, so, I mean, Bill's a very old school politician, and Jim was also a politician. He was a representative from Oklahoma for a long time, for about half a decade, if I'm remembering right. And before that, he was a curator of an Arianspace museum, and before that, he was a Navy fighter pilot. You know, like, dude, that's like, I never understood why the previous administration chose Jim until I heard him speak. I'm like, oh, this guy, okay. Oh, all right, you know. It may not make sense, but it makes dollars. You're not wrong. Oh, nice, Sebby. Not nice, but just read the dynamic statements. Reasonable and fair response. Yeah, Forge, that's another thing to understand. Contract protests happen all the time. Every single contract that the government awards for defense, space flight, whatever, they always get protested. It's industry standard, man. You do that. It's more, the protests aren't really protests, but more of an audit to make sure that there was nothing wrong. It's more auditing the process than anything. So, you know, if they go to the GAO, they protest it, and the GAO finds nothing wrong, then yeah, okay, cool. The award was legit. There was no conflict of interest. That's what that's about. Every contract gets protested. The F-35 contract got protested. The F-22 contract got protested back in the day. F-15EX, KC-46, every single one of them gets protested all the time. That's just something that you have to understand. Hack and Slash, I love Jim. I love the way he run NASA. Dude, that's how I would run NASA if I was there. In fact, I probably wouldn't even been able to do as good a job as him. Jim really knew what he was doing. And so does Bill. Bill knows what he's doing even more. What Bill Nelson is trying to do is, I think he's shooting to get 3 landers on the books. And the reason why I think he's going to do that is because he's constantly said in budget oversight committees and fiscal appropriations committees as the NASA administrator, he's constantly told the politicians that the infrastructure bill, so the Endless Frontiers Act, that's the current administration's infrastructure bill for, you know, fixing infrastructure here. I haven't read the whole thing, so I'm not going to talk about it. But he said that it'd be easier for NASA. And NASA's a piece of infrastructure. The VAB is a piece of public infrastructure, just like a bridge would be. It's our bridge to space. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. It's part of our bridge to space for human exploration. That's a piece of critical federal infrastructure. So what he's trying to do is get NASA more money via the Endless Frontiers Act. He's talked about it many times. Not a bad play. That's a pretty smart idea. It's pretty smart to bill it as that. That's a good idea. And the politicians that he testifies to in these oversight committees, like the CSJ oversight committee that he talked about the other day, they agreed with him. They're like, yeah, that's a good idea. We should do that. Anything that we can do to get NASA more money, because once again, everybody likes NASA. It's this one strange thing that all the politicians can agree on. It's weird. And it's probably because there's a lot of this involved. But just another story. Is protesting effectively free for these companies? Correct, Spiffy. Like I said, it's more of an audit of the process than anything. So the protest is not, we didn't get picked. The protests are more, hey, I don't think your judgment criteria for that was right because you said this and then you did this. It's looking for conflicts of interest. That's what it's trying to do. Yeah, Forge, exactly. So, it's like appealing a legal ruling. Pretty standard. Pretty much, YG. Yep. Like challenging a play in sports. It's the same thing. It's just part of the process. It's totally okay to do. Everyone likes NASA, but no one wants to give them money. Yeah, Crumpet, it's interesting how that works. Repost, I feel that the budget for Artemis is going to get easier with time. Another little step towards Long March 9 is a 9.5 meter diameter fuel tank cap. Yeah, maybe. Maybe, Raph. Have you covered any of the mission diversity program? What do you mean, Renbird? The mission diversity program. I'm not too incredibly familiar with that off the top of my head. I mean, Raphael, like, I'll be honest with you. If China makes a super heavy launch vehicle, you know, or when I should say at this time, I mean, nothing's stopping that industrial base. Like, let's talk real about that for a second. Yeah, they'll probably use that as a reason to fund it. But Raph, I'd be curious about one thing. And this is what I mean when I always say that it's important that the government has access to the moon and commercial companies have access to the moon, redundant to the public capability. If governments are the only reason that we're going to the moon, so like the Apollo program, your program is very susceptible to just being axed immediately. Because, once again, once the Apollo program, once Congress figured out that, you know, the Soviets built a moon rocket and their moon rocket can't get to the moon, they cut Apollo's budget real fast. They cut NASA's budget and gutted it so ridiculously hard that that built Saturn V's did not fly. And those are the Saturn V's that are in the museums. There was originally Saturn V missions slated for Apollo 18, 19, and 20. The Apollo 18 Saturn V flew Skylab, if I'm remembering right. And then the 19, 20, and SA500, the test article from the Saturn V program, are the 3 Saturn V's that are in museums. NASA's been doing a bit of a diversity push, I think, with mission diversity, highlighting the folk from different walks of life who will work in space. I've seen it periphery, but I don't recall. Look, the way I see it, Renbird, if it comes to, hiring a diverse work culture, I'm not necessarily against it. I don't care where people come from. If they're gung-ho about space, I don't give a frick. I don't care. As long as they're gung-ho about space, that's my real big thing. You know, I think it's not an unreasonable thing to say that the people that you want at NASA should be passionate about NASA. I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't really care where they come from. I don't care. I really don't. Like, and I'm not saying I don't care like I'm ignorant to the issue. As long as people are gung-ho about space, it doesn't matter where you come from. We cannot be afforded to pick and choose like that. You can't gatekeep space right now. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I hate it when people do that. The reason why you can't do that is because we haven't gained that foothold commercially and publicly in space to make it a thing that is just going to stay there. All right, so when you have a new type of exploration, when you have a new exploration system, right, and it gets it gets put into action, like the Saturn V, for instance, all right, you reach a critical threshold where there's no going back. So the Saturn V was good capability, and it was a foothold in space, but due to the lack of sustainability, it was very impervious to being canceled. We need to fire on all cylinders to get space to the point where going to the moon is not something that can just be canceled in one shot. You know, the current administration is still gung-ho about going back to the moon, just like the last one was. Who's to say that the next person wouldn't be? They made the same mistakes with Constellation. Constellation was another Apollo-style program, and look at how, dude, it didn't even get off the ground before somebody just came along and said, nope. And that's why a commercial space program and a public space program is a really important thing. But going back to it, space, we don't have a big enough foothold. The demographic for space is not big enough, so we can't, picking and choosing who you want to work at NASA, the only criteria for that should be that you like space, and that's where that ends. That's literally where that ends. That I do not give a frick who works for NASA. As long as they're gung-ho about space, I'm good. Or science, or their respective field, or, you know, climate science, or planetary science, or anything. Or going back to the moon, or engineering. It doesn't matter. Passion can come from anywhere. So NASA's no longer going to try to get the best of the best with honors, sir. Kyron, I refuse to believe that just because someone comes from different capabilities and limitations that they're not able to achieve their maximum potential. That's stupid. That's a dumb thing to say. Not you, but you know what I'm talking about. Dude, we can't pick and choose. This is the exact kind of stuff that I get pissed off at journalists for doing, because they're, you know, favorability for one space contractor over another is creating division, and spaceflight community can't be divided like that right now. We're still at a point where some idiot could come along and cancel everything. Where it's not, the events have been set in motion to make space a part of our public kind of conscious, right? But we're not at that point yet. If they, you know, like, if they deorbit the ISS and cancel the Artemis program, then where are we? The commercial crew flyers have no destination. That program no longer becomes sustainable, and we're stuck in low Earth orbit, or even worse, we're grounded. No, like a delay in spaceflight capability. Now, that's unlikely to happen, but NASA needs to keep growing the space economy, and they need their own robust space program on top of that. That will create the redundant foothold that we need in space to go further and keep space in the public conscious, and keep it as something that is just part of our life. Working in space, that's just part of what we do. Just like people take a jetliner from New York to Los Angeles to go do business. The airplane is a critical foothold in how we work in the modern world. We need space to get to that foothold. We're not at that foothold. And until we get to that foothold, we cannot afford to pick and choose. And not that we ever should have in the first place. It's very, very, very important. You can't gatekeep this stuff. That's a bad idea. Yeah, Loopy. Yeah, differing perspectives and stuff is, you know, different ways to solve problems is fine. It's just, you know, Loopy, having different perspectives and more ways to solve the problem is something I'm gung-ho about. That's what we should do. We should do that. But also at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. If your idea doesn't get selected, you can't be all pissy about it either. Somebody may have thought a better way to do it than you. You know what I mean? It's like when I'm like, Loopy, when I'm super like, oh, I think this idea is going to work. And then somebody's like, oh, you should probably do this. And I'm like, no, shut up. Let me try this. And I try it and it blows up in my face. And then people in chat are like, told you so. Somebody may have come up with a better way to do things. And that's fine. I don't get upset about, well, I get a little salty that something blew up in my face and my idea didn't work. But I end up going with chat's solution, which happens all the time. But once again, the important thing at the end of the day, that whomever we put at NASA, doesn't matter where they come from, needs to be gung-ho about space. They need to want to be there. And that is super important. It's super important. See last messages. What's up? Back from Connecticut, from your Pap's funeral. Oh, I'm sorry, man. He was going through dementia. He was an Air Force spy in the Korean War. Been a good father and granddad and husband. He got the Airman Service Award. Good man. I was so sad when they lowered him into the ground. Hey, that sucks, Pixel. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. I truly am. Just, you know, Pixel, I have my own way about grieving for loved ones that you've lost. What I try to do, and I find that this helps, and you know, if you're going through a rough spot right now, I get it, but what I like to do is, so when my grandfather died, like in 2011, I knew him pretty well. We had the same birthday. I was born on his birthday, so we had a thing, you know, there's a thing. When he died, you can honor his death and you can be sad about it. That's totally cool. You have to have a good cry every once in a while, man. what I like to do is honor my grandfather by standing up for the ideals that he stood up to. My grandfather was a hard worker. He's a hard worker. He did what he had to do to provide for his family. I mean, keep in mind, he was the son of Italian immigrants, so he didn't have much growing up in the 20s and the 30s. So he did what he had to do, and he worked whatever he needed to do to provide for his family. And I try to stick to those ideals. Yeah, that's very, very important. You cried hugging your dad. Hey, it happens, man. It happens. Just try to take all the good things that you remember about that person and try to live to those ideals. That's what I do to honor the dead. That's how I grieve. My grandfather's a hard worker. He's a hard worker. He was a janitor at the high school that my mother went to. He did what he had to do to put food on the table for his family. He was a mason. He did masonry work. He built houses. He was a janitor. He did everything. And then the woman that he married, my grandmother, did the same thing too. Both of my grandparents worked, and they worked well into their 60s. They're hard workers. I come from a family of hard workers. So the best thing that you can do to honor the dead, and once again, this works for me, is just stand up for the good ideals that those folks stood for. It's a good thing to do. Sounds like the pitch for The Godfather. You come here on the day of my daughter's wedding and ask for favors. You ask for a favor, but you never bothered to hang out with me. You only come on the day of my daughter's wedding. Buonasera. Buonasera. Sorry. Fun fact, the first American woman in space. She kept that to herself, too close for a death. Yeah, Loopy. Yeah, hey. Sally Ride played for the other team. Who cares? She was a great astronaut. I don't care about that. Nobody else should either. It's their own personal business. You know? So you do have Italian origins? Andy, my grandmother, when she was 14, came from Italy to the United States to escape fascism. My grandmother was at Ellis Island. She's there. Her name's on the wall. At Ellis Island in New York City. She came on board the boat, the SS Rex. My family still has the papers. She immigrated to the United States, and she got let in because her parents died. Both of her parents died, and when she was 14, she took a boat and emigrated by herself to the U.S. Andy, yeah, no, so yeah, my grandfather's parents were from Italy as well, and that's my mother's side of the family, and my father's side of the family, his parents were my dad's dad. His parents were from Italy as well. I'm like 95% Italian or something like that. Yeah. Ethnically. I'm American, man. I was born here. I don't know how to speak Italian. I don't know anything about Italy. I like Ferraris, and that's about it, man. So I would just call myself American, but ethnically, yeah, Italian. Oh yeah, like 90%, dude. Don't you notice? Like, Andy, you know what I just said. And then the other 10% is the crown. Yeah. Somewhere along the line, one of my ancestors married somebody from England. Yeah. So I'm like 90% Italian, like 10% English. Oh, so I like ribbing you guys so much. Oh, you bunch of plonkers. Scusi, Bappy da Boopy? Che cosa? So Andy, grandmother freaking emigrated to the U.S. when she was 14 by herself. The Rex was stopped by a German U-boat. They took people off the boat. I'll let you go and figure out what kind of people they took off the boat. Yeah, lovely. So. Yeah, oh yeah, no, Italian, full and through. My grandmother was from Parma. So that's in the same valley that Maranello and Modena and like all the way down at the end of the valley, there's Imola. It's that, like northern Italy. So my mother's side of the family is from northern Italy, and my dad's side of the family is from kind of the center, outside of Rome, but on the other coast. So it's not outside of Rome, it's on Italy's east coast. Parmesan, yeah, Parma, where the cheese comes from. That's right. Is that where a certain cheese is from? Yeah, maybe. Sure. I just watched the first episode of the Grand Tour, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Kelly, you gotta go back and watch the original Top Gear from like 2008 to like 2015. It is the funniest, one of the funniest shows I've ever watched. You ever study Giuseppe Garibaldi? I recognize the name, King. Yeah. Wasn't he was an explorer, if I'm remembering right. Rossi, Italy. Yep. Formaggio and prosciutto. I mean, my grandmother's, she was off the boat. She was, hey, you don't have to do this. I remember when, I mean, both my parents worked. Both my parents still work. My mom and my dad still work. They're still working well into their late 60s. And not like they're out and about. Like they still freaking work, dude. They could have retired a long time ago, but they like working. Oh, geez, I wonder where I got that trait from. I like working too. I enjoy it. We talked about that before Space News. Thinking of coming to visit the EU? Maybe when the world is a little less crazy, Gojira. I would love to, sure. But I remember my grandmother only spoke Italian in the house. When she was outside in public, never did. When I was Italian, she got adopted. What is the name of the public areas to get a good view of 39A for Artemis 1? Playa Linda Beach and Jetty Park. Jetty Park on the south side of the space complex and Playa Linda Beach. But sometimes for 39A launches, Playa Linda Beach is closed. But Florida's pretty flat. Anywhere near the Space Center, you'll be able to see the rocket. He did a lot of things, including hiring a merc army to unify Italy. He was so cool that he single-handedly changed fashion trends in the U.S. for like a decade. Yeah. Yeah, I know I recognize the name, King. Yeah. Hit me up if you ever want to visit the RAF Museum in Cosford. Sort of close-ish to me. Yeah, Barack. There's a lot of stuff in England. A lot of war museums. The Duxford. The museum at Duxford is... Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, dude. I'm in. We just got to figure out when the world isn't as nuts when to do it. Playa Linda will be closed for the Artemis 1 launch. However, it should be open in the months leading up to it. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Loopy and everybody else, going back to like the diversity program, I don't care where people come from, and we should give everybody equal consideration, but we should hire the most gung-ho people about space, regardless of where they come from. That's all I ask. Like, I think that's a pretty fair and impartial stance on it. I don't really care. I don't care who I'm talking to here. We have people in this chat from all different corners of the world, all different walks of life, all different capabilities and limitations. John Young quote. I don't care. What makes this stream good is the individual people that watch it. I don't care where you come from. I don't care about who you are, what you look like, where you came from. That doesn't mean anything to me. If you like space, you're a friend of mine. Simple as that. I mean, even if you don't, like, it's just we can't gatekeep space like that. That's a really stupid idea. He doesn't care about us, chat. That's right. My great-grandfather was a machine for brick molds, and his molds were used up until recently. That's cool, Ren. Very cool. A family story is similar, but on the German side, they got targeted for doing business with. Oh my goodness, yeah, it's the 1930s and the 1940s were not high points in human history. Let me just put it that way. Last for Booster 4 hardware. Shaking my head. You can't enjoy space unless you've actually been to space. Okay. I disagree. Keep shaking your head, fool. No. But yeah, so. What do we got here? Grid fin, huh? For booster number 4? Let's take a look. Human history is just bad, period. Yeah, Tessa, you know where I stand on that. There's a lot of bad in human history, but there's a lot of good too. But we like to focus on the bad, which isn't a bad thing in itself. It's important to understand how we got to this point. It's a very, very important thing. You got to remember history, good and bad. If you don't teach history, the good and bad parts of history, how are future generations going to know what's good and what's bad? That's a really, really important thing to understand. Correct, Solar. It's a self-correcting system over time, and that's why history is super important. Gridfin! They could watch the history of the world. Yeah, I mean, that might help in some way, Tessa. Renbird, yeah. Yeah, he used the flute. The freaking... Yeah. I like using crappy automaton. Yeah, there's the grid fins right there. And it's next to a compressed nitrogen trailer. You know how I can tell? Because of the way it is. It's pretty neat. Yeah, Thomas Pesquet is a cheeky guy. I like him. He's cool. He's a cool dude. It's funny to... It's cool to have an astronaut that doesn't take, like... You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. You have to take being an astronaut seriously, but... Like, you know... It's good to see that... It's cool to see that when astronauts are normal. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, you know, that statement could get taken out of context. But doing stuff like that, like messing with your friends and stuff, that's hilarious. You know? Like, I think that's funny as hell. That's the kind of stuff that I would do if I was an astronaut. I'd be like, yep, enjoy this automaton solo. You know, like, they'd be like, all right, we get it. I'd be like, are you awake now? You know. 1066 green sign is eco-friendly. 1066 is the marker designation, the marking designator for compressed nitrogen. Yeah. This is a symbol system that trucks use to indicate what they're hauling. It's good to know if, like, a truck is on fire, for instance, what it's carrying by the markings. Because if it says 1066 on it and it's on fire, and it says 1066 is compressed nitrogen, so you're heating gas inside of a tube. You might not want to go near that as a fireman, right? You probably don't want to go near that. Simultaneously, there's other numbers here. There's the numerical designation and what it is, and the color. That it has a lot to do with it. It'll say what it is. That's what these symbols are for, and the number indicates what type of element it is or what you're hauling. So 1066 is nitrogen, 1977 is liquid methane or refrigerated methane, 1203 is gasoline, 1993 is oil or diesel fuel. So, like, yeah, for instance, you might want to, if you're a firefighter and you're going near a tanker truck and it has 1203 on the side, there's different ways to fight different types of fires. Like an oil fire, don't put water on it. You got to snuff it out. You don't put water on an oil fire. That makes it worse. You're literally pouring oxidizer on the fire. It makes it worse. Yeah, bad idea. So that's why those markers are there. That's what 1066 means. Is 1019 anything? I don't know. I'd have to go look. The 2 is a classification. Flammables are 3. There you go. The 2 indicates that it's inert, right? Yeah, that's all indicators so firemen know how to combat the type of fire. That's part of being a firefighter, dude. You have to really understand that stuff. You can't just go up to a fire and be like, yes, I have concluded after careful consideration that it is on fire. Let's put water on it. No, firefighters have to, when they're going to put out a fire, they have to assess what type of fire they're dealing with, what type of building it is, what's the building made out of, is it safe to enter if there's people in there? Yeah, firefighters basically have to play detective and also save people and put out the fire all at once. Those guys do a lot of work. Shout out to the firefighters. I took the fireman's exam once upon a time, so I know a little bit about it. I aced it. I passed. Does that help? Like, that's a fire distinguisher's job. Is a fire distinguisher not a fireman, Stone? Honest question. It's been a while. One of my cousins is a firefighter too. He watches the stream from time to time. So did you just take it for fun? Yargnit, once upon a time I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. There was a time where I wasn't as sure of myself that space would be the thing to do. So I tried a bunch of other stuff out to see if I liked it. I wouldn't mind being a firefighter. That would be cool. It's a dangerous job, to say the least. Yeah, I had to go read about different fires and how you fight different types of fire. Sometimes you basically just snuff the fire out with wind. Sometimes you just let it burn. There's nothing you can do. Other times you can put it out. Like, it really depends. It's some of the stuff that those guys do. Like, I mean, you're running into a burning building and stuff. That's hardcore. You need balls to do that. No, a fire extinguisher sees the fire and goes, "Yep, that's fire." I would have been a firefighter, but I have a bad back. Yeah, Coyote, I wouldn't be able to do it nowadays because I have herniated discs. Anyway, yeah, it's already 8 o'clock, guys, and I want to get this launch pad finished. There is still a little bit of Russian news here. Kem, if you're still here, we'll cover the decision on the new Russian space station tomorrow. Quick news that I can report is that Dmitry Rogozin said that Nauka's hatches are open and everything's going normal. Work is continuing on setting up the module for station life. Could we read the Bill Nelson Space News before we end Space News? Yeah, I guess. I want to read these articles, damn it. I'm going to save that link and I'll put it over here on the side of the screen. We can talk about that later. This sums up Boca Chica process, yeah. And some fires you put out with dynamite, yeah. Yeah. SpaceX has a flag up at Boca Chica that says full send in stars and stripes. That's awesome. I'll just go over this last article real quick, and then we got to jump in. We'll jump into Kerbal at the top of the hour. I got to build the ramp for the big SSTO, and yeah, then we got to go from there. Let's see. This is a Space News article by Jeff Faust, and this does pertain to the GAO report and whatnot. So, you ever hear about the fire the Soviets put out with a nuke? Yep, snuff the fire out, King. Sometimes if you take away the air, take away the oxidizer, fire goes out. I mean, they also strapped some MiG-19 engines to a T-34 tank and used that to blow out oil well fires, which, yeah, works. All right. So, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson says he remains confident that Congress will provide NASA with additional funding so it can select a second lunar lander developer, but declined to comment on Blue Origin's proposal to lower its cost to enable a contract. Speaking at a press conference at the Kennedy Space Center July 29th about the upcoming launch of the CST-100 Starliner spacecraft on its second uncrewed test flight, Nelson said the Commercial Crew Program provided an argument for selecting a second company for the human landing system. Yep. What if we had two competitors, and what if we hadn't had two competitors, and what if it only been Boeing? He asked about the Commercial Crew Program. Boeing has yet to fly people on Starliner, while SpaceX made its first crewed launch more than a year ago and is currently in the middle of its second operational mission to the ISS. Right there, that's enough demonstration of why we want competition. He's right. No. Different bill. Different bill. What? This bill is a Florida man. The other bill's from Arkansas. That's a different bill. It's a different guy. He then said that NASA wants competition in the HLS program, despite awarding only one contract in April to SpaceX, citing a lack of funding. Well, we already said as to why. I'm very optimistic at this point that Congress is going to give us some additional funds that will allow us to go forward with the competition. They're investigating it, Reaper. Why does your bill sound like an older Keanu Reeves? I don't know. That additional funding has so far not been forthcoming from Congress. Well, Nelson told both House and Senate committees that he was looking for more than $5 billion for HLS, perhaps a part of the Jobs and Infrastructure bill. A House Appropriations bill for fiscal year 2022 increases NASA's budget for HLS by just $150 million to $1.34 billion. An infrastructure bill currently being considered by the Senate does not appear to include any funding for HLS. In a July 26th open letter to Nelson, Jeff Bezos, founder of Blue Origin, proposed waiving up to $2 billion in fees over 3 years and carrying out an additional demonstration mission at no cost to NASA if the agency gave the company a second HLS award. They're, once again, targeting lunar exploration transport services. Blue Origin's original bid for the HLS program was nearly $6 billion, more than double SpaceX's $2.9 billion award. We went over that earlier in the stream as to why that was set up that way. And yeah, if you want to understand why it was $6 billion and SpaceX's was nearly half that, despite, this being a small lander and this being Starship, jump back to my GAO report about 45 minutes ago in the VOD. That offer came as the Government Accountability Office continues to review the protests filed by Blue Origin and the other HLS bidder, Dynetics. Well, we saw the outcome of that. The GAO has an August 4th deadline to issue a ruling. Well, we know what the ruling is. Nelson cited the GAO protest when asked about how NASA would consider Bezos' proposal. I want you to ask me that question next week. I'm sorry, that's what he sounds like. Imitation is a serious form of flattery. I want to be very clear. I'm not making fun of Bill. I like Bill. He does a hell of a job fighting for NASA. And frankly, him trying to propose increased NASA funding under the Endless Frontiers Act is a really, really good idea. That's a really smart move. Really smart thing to do. Good on him. He really, that demonstrates to me that he knows he's very politically competent and he knows what he's doing. And once again, I said this once, I'll say it again. That's the type of person you need running NASA. You need somebody that can talk to these politicians and tell them what NASA is doing in political speak and not scientific speak. You need a medium. That's what the NASA administrator is supposed to do. A medium between saying what the engineers need and what the politicians need. I'll tell you that you engineers don't like dealing with congressmen. Sometimes I take the specs from the engineers and physically bring them to the congressman. Sometimes I bring them down there, or their facts. Look, I have people skills, okay? No one likes dealing with a congressman. Savage. Check your Twitter. I just sent you something. I have nothing in my notifications. I'm good at dealing with Congress. Don't you understand that? What the heck is wrong with you people? What would you say you do here? You personally deliver the specs? Well, sometimes I go, or they're faxed. What I'm trying to tell you is that Bill may or may not have a jump to conclusions mat. It's a mat with different conclusions that you can jump to. If I was NASA administrator, I would have a jump to conclusions mat in my office and a pet rock. And I would tell nobody why. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, well, it's a fun little thing to have. Pet rock, and the pet rock would be a crawlerway rock. It would be a rock from Kennedy Space Center. It'd be like, that's my pet rock. You know, the guy that invented that made $1 million. And I would tell people that in off the record conversations as the NASA administrator. Yeah, I would do that. The guy that invented a pet rock, the guy made $1 million. In fact, I would probably layer in my conversations with people with movie quotes, just like what I do now. Yeah, that would probably get annoying real fast, but I'd still do it. Yeah. I probably shouldn't be NASA administrator, should I? Probably shouldn't do that. Okay. So yeah, Bill is trying to use his political competency to get more landers on the books, which is smart. That's a smart idea. All right. Anyway, let's jump into KSP. We got to build out the rest of the heavy SSTO pad, and we got to test it today as well. So let's go. So we are finishing the heavy SSTO launch pad. So I'm going to switch over now for everybody that's watching. I'm going to switch over to a game called Kerbal Space Program. If you're newer to the stream, KSP is a game about launching rockets, and I use KSP to teach people about how rockets are built. And I don't just go like, oh, spacebar, send it into space. I also teach about how rockets are built and how they're made in the game and in real life, and use the game as a medium to demonstrate it. If you're interested in space and you like learning about this stuff, I go through end-to-end architecture of launch vehicles. We're building a single stage to orbit reusable launch vehicle right now in KSP, and I want to get it done by this weekend, but it is, long story short, I have a launch pad and an SSTO that can move